The World Pro Racing GT3 Masters is fueled by Enemed and supported by Melita, Gaming Malta and Visit Malta.
I know you've got a secret like a child, you wanna keep it, but your shiny eyes reveal the simple truth.
lanqas aħħalsulhom il-fuel. Ara ġej.
Wara ftit ġranet kellna rebbieħ ieħor fil-logħba tagħna kontra 30 sekonda bil-maqlub. Suqu fuq ir-riserva xejdu le mhix setiqa.
Il-ġimgħa d-dieħla nkunu fuq pompa tal-Enemed oħra nagħtu xi ħaġa oħra.
For only €5 a month, experience every high-definition moment on your TV, tablet, phone or PC. Great teams, great moments, and so much more. TSN from Melita is your ticket to stay in the game. Visit melita.com/sports.
Okay, we proceed to the start.
Around an old airfield, everything seemingly looks so basic. You don't have the ability of undulation to try and unsettle a vehicle. You don't have that same natural feel that many other tracks do, which try to unsettle you. But this, being a completely different challenge, has its own unique set of skills that make it a very big terror for drivers like these who want to try and challenge themselves to put themselves at the very top of GT3 racing on rFactor 2, who want to become World Pro Racing. GT3 Masters, fueled by Enemed, and also helped out, supported by Gaming Malta, Visit Malta, and Melita as well. Good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are around the world watching action that we've got here today. It's Jake Sperry, joined alongside with Caitlin Penny. On top of that, You have to also shout out as well to Justin Missard, who is on the cameras for us here, race director Adrian Fagayo, and of course race steward George Muscat, as well, as we are currently in the midst of practice at the moment. 5 minutes to go before we take ourselves over to qualifying, and Sebring, our destination for the third round of the championship, this 6-round season, which has already been interesting after 2. But this one here, Caitlin, marks the halfway stage in the season, which has been very topsy-turvy, where nobody truly can say that they hold the true advantage.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jake. Welcome, everyone, one and all, to the Sebring International Raceway in Florida. With just a few days until bonfire night, there are fireworks going on outside my window, and I'm sure we're about to see fireworks on track as well. I find it humorous that the Formula 1 drivers in COTA this week have been complaining about bumps on the circuit causing them issues, because anyone who's raced at this track, the Sebring International Raceway, will tell you that you only know the true meaning of bumpy when you've flung a car through Sunset Bend and then shot across the line to turn 1. And indeed, this track is bumpier than the backside of a toad with acne. Hold on to your helmets, everyone. It's going to be a ride and a half.
It is going to be a very difficult challenge, and one which is doubly so difficult here today, mainly because of the fact that we're not going for 1 hour's worth of racing. Oh no, double the distance. We're coming up to 2 hours worth of racing here at Sebring, a really, really tough racetrack, officially licensed for rFactor 2, seeing everything being absolutely fantastic as certain drivers here are looking to get out there and impress, show exactly what they are going to be capable of when they get out onto track, and show exactly what they are going to be able to do around a very long, very bump track. But there is, of course, that big talking point, the difference between driving on asphalt and driving on concrete. Half the track concrete, half the track asphalt makes life very difficult when you're changing between two surfaces, Caitlin.
You're mentioning drivers that have things to prove, and I think that someone who no longer has anything to prove is Erhan Yuyovsky, who I'm very glad to say is back with us after a very successful World's Fastest Gamer campaign. Didn't quite win, but I tell you what, reaching the final and going to California to compete in that, huge achievement, and he cemented himself as the most successful driver in rFactor 2 since Rudy Van Buren. So fantastic to see him back today. He's yet to set a lap in this this practice session, but he's on track right now in his Mercedes, the very nice liveried Mercedes run by AAA Esports. Of course, he had to take a round out last time out, but he's back to defend his race win that he took at Silverstone, and I'm sure he's going to be right up there fighting for it again today.
I'm going to have to correct you there in the fact that Yuri Kazdorp took the round of the. But what is very crucial,
you're right, sorry.
To keep in mind is that Erhan Yuyovsky did not score any points at that last round, as was said, wasn't there, so does drop back to 5th in the championship, tied with Daniel Kiss, who isn't here at the moment for Edge Sports Life. Very interesting in terms of the drivers' standings, unofficial at the moment, but 8 points the gap for Risto Capit, who took the victory at Virginia, with Yuri Kazdorp only managing 4 points after waltzing away from the field, but ultimately finding calamity in the barriers earlier on was always going to make life very difficult. Consistency king for Jim Parisis, who is currently 3rd in the championship, 10 points back for Edge Sports. We're talking about the team as well. It is AAA who have the advantage, and their advantage is 10 over Singularity, and Edge Esports just a further 9 points back. But do not count out the consistency of Avid Chronic Racing. David Mrozek and Yernev Shimanchik have scored very nicely, and they only find themselves a handful of points back off of Edge. It's a 4-team championship, so to speak, at the moment, looking at those team standings. And of course, this Sebring track does hold a very strong bastion in terms of championship as well that we look at, Caitlin, because it's not just here that drivers are looking at after Sebring. They've got the likes of Imola, Zandvoort, and of course Le Mans to finish off the season. Always going to be a very tough calendar, and Sebring, I think, is the most unique on this.
It really is a classic calendar, and the great thing about it is that all of those circuits are unique. They all have such a different feel to them. You have Silverstone, which is the most high-tech Grand Prix circuit possibly in the world. I was there today, in fact, and I still think that the sites and the way it's set up, the infrastructure of it, and the design of the circuit as well, just fantastic. The best in the world, in my opinion. Virginia, then you have a real roller coaster ride. There's even corners on the circuit called the roller coaster section. You have S's, it goes up, it goes down, and you have some pretty nasty curbs there as well. Sebring, of course, you have to deal with the bumps, you have to deal with the difference between tarmac and asphalt, and it is actually quite long as well, although not the longest circuit on the calendar. That would be Le Mans. Imola, of course, is going to be tight. There's very rarely a bit of straight track at Imola, and as a result, it's going to be about playing the waiting game and forcing your opponent into a mistake there, much as it will be with Zandvoort, although Zandvoort, of course, has even less runoff. It's even faster, even narrower, and even trickier in my personal opinion. And then, of course, at the final round, Le Mans, everyone knows why Le Mans is unique. It's the site of the prestigious Le Mans 24 Hour. It's partially on a road course, and also partially on a race course. Has extremely long straights. It's very fast, and of course, it's a wonderful place to host the climax of a championship. But for now, Sebring is going to take us to the half point of the season, and I have to say, it's a very good track to compete this on.
Certainly is, as we head ourselves away from practice, which was just finished. David Mrozek being the top time there, and it will now be qualifying that drivers all sit and wait at the end of the road, looking to try and get their lap time ready once the green flag goes, which it does, and 20 minutes are put on the clock as drivers look to find some great lap times to make sure that they are right in the position that they need to be. Qualifying has been a big battle over the course of the season. They're already too wide, the likes of Yuri Karsdorp there, trying to deal with one of the other vehicles, try and get around with. Always going to make life very difficult. No chance of really finding a way through there. So this is a case of got to find a little bit of clean space on this track. You start going out there being aggressive with drivers on qualifying laps, you're really going to set a tone. You're not going to make very many friends. And talking about not making very many friends, they were side by side into the hairpin. Do those guys know that it's a qualifying session right now? They don't actually have to fight each other. Is track position that important, Kate?
I'm not so sure, but the ACR guys almost ran into each other there down at the hairpin, and the AAA esports drivers seemed so desperate to get out of the pit lane first that one of them came charging through from the back past several cars, actually coming out of the pits. So obviously track positioning is important. I think the ACR drivers are trying out a tactic that we see in our touring car series quite a lot, which is that they're running around together on track. I expect that will be to take advantage of the slipstream that you get down the start-finish straight, and possibly towards the end of the lap as well. Though to take advantage of that, the other driver does have to stay ahead through the twisty parts, which does tend to affect these cars much more than it would do in a touring car. And actually, just showing how important the track positioning is, they've just been passed by a Porsche. That'll be one of the rookie monsters cars, hoping to get a wriggle on and get through the pack. But anyway, so we're about to see the first hot laps. Let's see who we can keep our eye on. I think the first driver to start a lap is probably going to be Risto Caput.
That very much is. So we'll see how Caput gets an opening lap sorted together up into turn number one. Always very difficult, can carry a lot of momentum through this opening section, but the track does fall away from you at the end. It narrows up through the kink 2 and into 3, 4 and 5, where you have to be very much holding the momentum of your vehicle before heading your way over towards turn number 6, Big Bend, for the turn 7 hairpin. Risto Caput said expect low 58s to be the pole time to try and beat 58.6 and 58.3s we were maybe looking at over in practice, but on the break into the right-hander of turn 7, one vehicle a little bit down the road is not going to do anything, straight lining before heading to this Fangio chicane, which doesn't really feel like a chicane. It's a very quick right into a very quick left before Cunningham Corner comes up and approaches. This is a prime overtaking opportunity down the inside at this section. If you can get it good here, then you head yourself through the left and then the small kink right, which heads over to Tower Corner, which is always going to be the next big battleground, which a lot of people are looking at. Slightly missed apex though there from Capit, and that's going to be worrying through Bishop towards the Le Mans section, and of course the Ullman Straight here, Caitlin.
So heading out towards the Ullman Straight here, you've got a flick to the right, and it's important to set yourself up well here, because if you don't, you are going to feel it down the straight. Here comes that right-hander now. You've got a bit of a curve on the right-hand side. It doesn't affect you that much, although it can sometimes cause you to wiggle out towards the grass on the outside. Now we head down the straight. He's got a very distant slipstream. I'm not sure if that's going to be affecting him much from a car just setting up to start a lap. And now we have Sunset Bend. This is the final corner on the track. Slightly cuts on the inside there. I'm not sure how strict the steward's going to be about that. And he's going to cut it slightly on the outside as well. But completing the lap, the first benchmark is going to be a 1:59.539, which incidentally is pretty much my personal best of this track. Yuri Kasdorp immediately comes through and beats it. It's 1:59.395 for him. And Matteo Caruso now goes to the top with a 1:59.340. So currently, oh, never mind, because now we've just had the two ACR cars going to the top. Simončić and Mrocek just being split by Petr Brilyak. So Mrocek's on a 1:58.533. Brilyak 1:58.622, Simončić 1:58.967, and the times are tumbling at the top of the order already.
Well, they didn't come here to play any games. They wanted times, and they wanted times quickly, and times they certainly got as they came over the line. Mrozek from Brilyak, from Simončić, Audi's really responding, and Mrozek, who has consistently been, in terms of qualifying pace, second strongest driver in the Avicronic team, really finding a groove here today with this Sebring track, and that is going to be helpful as 5 minutes has already been knocked off of the clock. Because it is a long lap around here, you don't have too long to get a good lap time out. Once you abandon a lap and you don't get what you want, it's going to be a lot tougher to get those lap times back to where you need to as Jim Paresis moves up into 7th position, a full second off of pole at the moment. Maybe not quite as good for the Edge Esports driver, knowing that his teammate Petr Brilyak is up there in 2nd position right now. Jim Paresis up there in the championship hunt, not quite there at the moment when it comes to qualifying at this stage, but Jim Paresis is always a racer more than a qualifier.
Jim Paresis, if you mention him to anyone, they will tell you so many stories of his history in sim racing, because he's been everywhere, he's done everything, and he's won everything. And so far, of course, Jim proving to be one of the top drivers in the championship, currently 3rd place in the championship overall in one of the 2 Edge Esports cars. The other Edge Esports car that you've got to look out for here, it's not Dan Kiss, who it would normally be. In fact, it's Petr Brilyak. So Brilyak there standing in for Dan Kiss, and I'm not sure whether Kiss intended to miss this meeting or not. Whichever the case, Brilyak doing great things in that car so far, putting it P2 in the order. And Jim Paresis on an outlap now, hoping to go quicker. Meanwhile, I'm more interested in the fact that Anya Yovsky and Risto Capit are currently 6th and 8th in the order. Not respectively, I got them the wrong way around there, with Capit 6th and Yovsky 8th. Although, that's over a second off the leaders. So for the Edge Esports cars, which are currently leading the team's championship, AAA Esports drivers who are currently leading the team's championship, that's not too promising, actually.
It's consistent, but that's all it is at the moment. Consistently together, they need to find some pace. Of course, balance of performance becomes a big talking point around this season. Not every track will suit every vehicle, and a track like Sebring maybe works better for those Audis, which are able to ride the bumps a little bit better, able to work hard and get the times that they want. But what we have seen from the likes of Jurnej Simončić is qualifying has been his strong point, but it has race pace, the early race pace in stints, which has cost him races, and he's fallen back. He's not found the times that he's needed. 0.4 of a second off of where he needs to be at the moment. He looks to warm the tyres up, going for a big lap at the moment with both Briliak and Mrozek out there on flyers at the moment, looking to find improvements. Matteo Caruso up there in 4th position, having a very strong run of things at the moment. With that in mind too, always up there, always putting himself in the right places, and of course driving for Singularity needs to make sure that those places are going to be strong. Needs 10 points on AAA, and currently at the moment Caruso is getting the job done.
Caruso definitely getting the job done. He was strong last time out until, unfortunately, he ran too low on fuel in the late stages and had to make a pit stop. But doing a really good job so far. Risto Capit just emotes him there, goes to 4th position. So that's the best lap we've seen from a Singularity driver so far. AAA, don't know why I'm getting them mixed up with other cars, but as I say that, a Singularity car, Yuri Kazdorp, does go to 3rd position. So Kazdorp there, who won race 1 at Silverstone, very nearly won race 2 at Virginia. My apologies to him for continually bringing that up. Currently 3rd position with a 158.879. So the top 3 there separated by 3.5 of a second. A track this long, that's not entirely well, it's not really that much at all, although in terms of qualifying he'll want to be closer than that. The top 2, Mrozek and Brojak, currently separated by less than 0.09 of a second.
Those 900 could mean everything. Keep an eye out though on the 2 rookie monster Porsches. They are doing very, very strongly for their challenges. They are 9th and 10th at the moment through Herman Stocci and Moritz Mähler, as they both find themselves 1.1, 1.5 seconds off the pace at the moment, as Jim Parisis, I believe, does find improvement in time, but not on position, stays in 7th place. 2 rookie monster Porsches, 9th and 10th. They'll be happy with that in their battle, of course, with GT Omega and the RPM Esports team. So 11th and 12th, Galea and Yativ find themselves, have been very, very strong in terms of their pace, but have been known to take that pit stop more. This is the question, though, here today, because it's double distance. Is this going to be a 1-stop or a 2-stop race?
Double distance, you say?
Double distance, I do say.
I say 2 stops. Sebring is very, very tough on the tyres, probably tough on the fuel as well because of the long straights, and we've seen drivers very nearly not making it to the end in the past with a lot of drivers running out of fuel pretty much towards the end of Virginia, and it seemed like they weren't expecting to. A very similar thing happening at Silverstone as well. To be honest, I think it would be very, very tough to go the full distance on just 2 tanks of fuel with the original starting fuel and then a fill up. So I wouldn't be surprised if pretty much everyone who finishes the race does 2 pit stops. But again, I don't know. I've actually never done a race shorter than 6 hours at Sebring, and as a result, I am open to be surprised today.
Well, someone's looking to try and bring surprise. Enemed Simonchik, he's up into the second, but is 4,000 short of pole position from his teammate. It shows you how good a setup is if both of your team are within the same 100th of a second as each other. So it's working out very much in good favour at the moment. Other drivers to keep an eye out on: Ibrahim Al-Mubarak, currently in 15th position for the FA Esports team. They find themselves a full 2.2 seconds off of where they want to, as well as keeping an eye on Ben Stupanek, the Corvette, currently 13th and 14th at the moment here in terms of racing. I was keeping an eye out on what Ben was saying earlier on here, and he said it's quite ridiculous, the fact that I'm putting in personal best and I'm still 2-3 seconds off the pace. It must be demoralising for a couple of people to see drivers up the front just having absolute belters of lap time.
Yeah, one thing I've noticed is that although this car pack is very, very good in terms of keeping the cars equal, the balance of performance is pretty much unmatched as far as GT3 mods go. There are slight differences between the cars, and I've been noticing since the very start of the season that McLarens have always struggled. Currently we have 3 McLarens in the field, and they are 16th, 18th and 19th out of 19 cars. So McLaren really struggling, and you can say that that's the team, the setup, the drivers, whatever, but there's one common factor between the 3 of them, and that's the car. Whatever the case, the Audi is looking very strong here. Mrozek and Simonchik always appear to be the fastest in qualifying, or very nearly the fastest in qualifying, and drop back slightly in the race. So it'll be interesting to see how they fare at the start. Aston Martins and Mercedes looking very equal in pace as always, and the BMWs in the mix as well, 11th and 12th with the what's that team? It's the GT Omega RPM Esports team, the most experienced team with Sim Racing Online. And of course, the car that I haven't mentioned yet is 2 cars actually. The Porsches run by Rookie Monsters, currently 8th and 9th. Good showing from them actually, and also the Corvettes, that's right, the Corvettes run by Mira Esports, and they are currently 13th and 15th, so not having quite as good a day as the Audis or the Aston Martins.
Well, we'll see how everyone does, because we've got ourselves just 6 minutes to go here in qualifying. Every lap time now becoming more and more crucial. Drivers looking to gear up towards their final big pushes in terms of their lap times. They've got to be absolutely on it at the moment, and every single time, every single corner means everything right now. The likes of Matteo Caruso back in 7th position at the moment. Erhan Yayovsky back down in just 10th position. So everyone looking to try and find some improvements. Yuri Kazdorp up there in 5th. Risto Capit out there in 4th position. The not necessarily unknown wild card, but in terms of this season, hasn't turned up yet, but now decides it's time to show my hand. Peter Briliak could very easily find himself at the pointy end. One of the best operators when it comes to this sort of simulator, these sorts of vehicles. Peter Briliak, you know, is always going to be up there and is going to be close as Jurnej Simončić puts the fastest lap of qualifying in, 1:58.463. That was right on the Aviconic Racing radar.
Fantastic from Simončić there. You saw it coming. They have been the fastest car all day so far, have the ACRs, the Aviconic Racing cars, and Simončić and Mrozek now separated by 0.069 of a second, nice, with Petr Briliak just under a tenth of a second behind David Mrozek as it stands. So the Audi is definitely looking to be the fastest car here in terms of qualifying pace. But remember, we had Simončić taking pole at Silverstone as well, and where did he finish in that? 7th? And that was purely on a lack of race pace. It was 5th actually, my apologies to him. But still, really dropped back at the start, and we saw a very similar thing happening at Virginia International Raceway as well. Despite the fact Simončić did catch up again towards the end of the race, and very nearly won the thing, I think 2 or 3 more laps, and well, on one hand, everyone would have run out of fuel, but you get what I'm saying. He would have been very, very much in contention there. Whatever the case, Simončić first, Mrozek second, Briliak third, Kazdorp fourth, and Capit 5th, with just 4 minutes to go until the checkered flag.
Checkered flag, so vital. They will have the opportunity to finish their lap times up, but Yuri Kazdorp then moving up into that 4th position ahead of Risto Capit, which is going to be useful in the Singularity AAA battle as Singularity gets himself up ahead with Kazdorp. Risto Capit happy to sit there in 5th position. Matteo Caruso currently scored in 7th, making his way out of Sunset Bend and making that charge to the line as David Mrozek improves his time but doesn't get anything more than that. In terms of Matteo Caruso, moves up into 6th place on a 1:59 flat, jumps Jim Paresis down to 7th. So for the time being, Jim Paresis needs to find a little bit more if he wants to get the improvements that he wants. I don't believe they've even changed positions there. So Caruso still looking to try and find just a little bit more. 3 minutes left, which means you've got time for about an outlap and a big flyer. And I think a lot of drivers right now are thinking, yeah, this is big flyer lap time.
And Yuyovsky crossing the start line, starting another flying lap. He's currently in 10th position, and he will be so disappointed with that. This is the driver who is one of the world's fastest gamers, as confirmed. And actually, I should point out that the world's fastest gamer qualifying race took place at this circuit, at Sebring, and he won the thing. So obviously it's not the track that Yuyovsky isn't used to. He's just not got the pace just yet. He's currently behind Herman Stocci, who is a driver who we haven't even seen yet in this championship. Stocci, not a driver that is driven for Rookie Monsters, or any team for that matter, in the first 2 races of the season, just making his first showing today, and doing a really nice job there in 9th position, just starting another lap of his own. But what's happening to Yuyovsky here? I expect that he is just not happy with the car as it is currently. Risto Capit, his teammate, has gone 8 tenths quicker than him. Goodness me.
Well, this is one of the things where drivers who look to put themselves into big championships want to try and show that they're the best. This is the issue that they have, because if they are investing all their effort to become a world's fastest gamer, which sometimes it works out for you, sometimes it didn't in the case Erhan Yuyovsky got to the Final 4, couldn't go all the way, unfortunately. Sometimes your practice time gets taken away, and it might be that Yuyovsky has not put the time into the simulator, has not put in that practice time, and as such is struggling to extract that pace, where his teammate, who has had maybe a lot more time to get acquainted with this track, will have a lot more of an advantage. Also worth noting that for other drivers, there are bigger challenges out there as well today. Also, because I know a couple of drivers have been toying around with the VEC, the Virtual Endurance Championship, as well as coming here to get some times, as Yuyovsky does find the improvements needed, moves up to 6th, 4/10 off a pole position. That was perfect and will not go any quicker than that, no higher than 6th. This is crucial, Caitlin. Some drivers are double dipping in terms of racing this evening, so this is going to be a huge challenge for those to get up to speed quickly.
It is, but you expect with drivers such as that, who are experienced, who have raced at this track many, many times, sometimes quite recently, you expect them to be up to speed much faster, but whatever the case, Yuyovsky currently in 6th position, just a 10th of a second behind his teammates, so it may well be that the AAA Esports car just doesn't have the pace of some of the other front runners here today, despite being the championship leaders, and despite having 2 of the fastest drivers in sim racing, especially in rFactor 2, behind the wheel. But still, 5th and 6th, nothing to be sniffed at. A lot of the other drivers in this series would pay quite a lot to be able to come 5th or 6th in qualifying, and that's where they will line up on the grid, seemingly, because we now have the checkered flag. So unless anyone can jump them in the late stages of the qualifying session, that's where they're going to be starting. I'm mainly looking at Matteo Caruso and Moritz Mel, since Jim Parisis and Herman Stocci are both in the pits and won't be going any faster. But near the front of the field, David Mrocek, about to finish his last lap, about to come across the line. He's 0.04 of a second behind Simoncic as it stands, and he goes pole by over a 1/10 of a second.
Bingo! 1:58.3. David Mrozek finds it at the death. Simoncic is out there on track. Needs to find the times, as is Peter Briliak, who was one of the last vehicles over at the start-finish line. Out to Sunset Bend comes Yuri Kazdorp, who's currently in 4th place. Half a second back. Needs something. Finds nothing. So Kazdorp will not improve. Briliak out there on track. Simoncic making his way to the corner of 1004 line, Sunset Bend, hoping that something is going to go through. 3rd is Risto Capit now, who finds a worldie of a time coming the end, 2.5 off the pole position. Here is Simoncic looking to outclass his teammate once again in qualifying, out of Sunset Bend, charging to the line. 1:58.320 to beat. 1:58.344. He's short by 24 thousandths, but keep an eye on Peter Briliak, who now makes his way to Sunset Bend in the Edge Esports Aston Martin, trying to get nice and narrow on that entry, really ragging on the vehicle over the bump and getting through the final corner. Currently 0.3 of a second off the pole position. Peter Briliak goes into 4th still, does not find the improvement that was needed, and crucially Davin Rojek makes sure it's Avid Chronic Racing 1-2 at the front as we step aside for a moment at World Pro Racing, and we'll be back with racing content after this. The World Pro Racing GT3 Masters is fueled by Enemed and supported by Melita, Gaming Malta and Visit Malta.
I know you've got a secret like a child, you wanna keep it, but your shiny eyes reveal the simple truth.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the World Pro GT3 Masters, fueled by Enemed, supported by Gaming Malta, Visit Malta, and Melita as well. We are just moments away from taking over to the starting grid procedure here at Sebring for what will be a 2-hour race around this wonderful drove of a track, an old airfield, very similar to Silverstone, but very different in terms of characteristics, whereas Silverstone may be one of the biggest in terms of international racing in the world. You can't talk too much about how brilliant Sebring is in comparison as a bumpy, gritty American challenge. Not really quite like it in terms of the sphere of American racing circuit, but this is where the challenge comes in. Jake Sperry, Caitlin Penny here in the commentary booth. We saw how the Audi found themselves at the front. They've been very good at qualifying. We've seen Simoncic right up there at the top, but it's Marochet who really has been the bench setter. Fastest man in practice, fastest man in qualifying. Is he looking to gear up to give himself a first race win of the season?
Well, I've noticed that Marocek always seems very, very slightly faster at the start of races. Simoncic comes good at the end, as we saw last time out, and that may be because of fuel saving. It may well be that he looks slower at the start because he saves fuel more, and then at the end of the race is able to push a little bit more than his opponent. But well, it's pretty much the other way around with Marocek. So we'll see how that happens at the start, and we'll see if my theory stays true. We've got about 3 minutes until the end of a brief unofficial warm-up session that's going on now, and then we will be underway from the start. I personally think that the Audis are going to be under big pressure at the start from the cars behind. We saw them really stretching their legs in qualifying, but it's going to be tougher at the start of the race. We've seen that all the way through the season so far, especially at Silverstone, where Simoncic took pole, and I think by the end of lap 2 he was down to third or something. So they'll both want to defend and make sure that they haven't got those cars behind breathing down their necks all of the time, and if they do, make sure that they keep the car steady on the racing line and don't give their opponents any chance to get a sniff.
All these drivers are looking to try and get sniff as much as possible. This championship looked very much about halfway through Virginia like it was Yuri Kasdorp's show. He was in complete control. He had 10 seconds over he finds the tyres up at the Oak Tree corner, only comes out of that event with 4 points and lose championship lead, gifting it over to Risto Kapik. How does Kasdorp respond here at a Sebring track where he knows he has to go out there and be aggressive very early?
There are a few big names in rFactor 2 that everyone, of course, Anya Yovsky is one of those, and Yuri Kasdorp is very much the others. I would be surprised if Yuri Kasdorp isn't at least challenging for the victory today, especially by the end of the race, and I would also be surprised if he doesn't lead it at some point, let alone win. But anyway, he's got very tough competition. This is one of the most competitive racing championships that I have ever had the pleasure to cover, and the quality of drivers at the front of this field. We have world's fastest gamer contenders, we have GPVWC champions, we have Formula Sim racing stars, we have people from all over the world of rFactor 2 and some from outside of it as well, and no real clear backmarkers either. So it's close all the way through, and I'm expecting it to have a few twists and turns, much like we've seen the last 2 rounds. I definitely don't expect a straightforward race here.
Racing is never straightforward when it comes to Sebring. It doesn't matter if you put the racing on for 2 minutes, 2 hours, or you go the full 12-hour distance. Sebring is marquee and known for around this wonderful track, but every single driver knows that these 2 hours are going to be a tough slog. This is not a sprint. This is more of an endurance style run. You aren't going to be able to get to the end on 2 hours on 1 tank fuel. They will have to make at least 1 pit stop, 1 or 2, depending on how aggressive drivers want to go in the early stages. This is where we're going to see a case of philosophy come into play as warm-up is effectively completed and we are going to very, very soon take us over to our big formation pace lap, the starting grid coming up just a moment's time, as everyone is going to make sure that everyone is going to be pushing at their very level best around this track, a track which everyone wants to put in their calendar as one that they are going to be the big victors of around here today. And more importantly than that, set themselves up for the mid part of a season which has been very, very difficult to get any real security on. So David Mrožek will be at the front of the field then, with Jernej Simončić alongside. Risto Kapit will start this one from third, with Peter Briliak in fourth position. Yuri Kazdorp will go from row 3 with Erhan Jajovski alongside. Matteo Caruso starts this one from 7th, with Jim Parisis in 8th. Moritz Mailer in 9th, with Herman Stocci rounding out the top 10, and all rookie monsters 5th row.
It's going to be close for the top guys. Okay, everyone made it in, I think. Actually, oh yeah, everyone did. It was very, very close for some of them there. Not sure they quite expected that little time before the start of the formation lap, but everyone has made it, I am glad to say. Of course, the Sebring track, which we've already spoken about, is a very prestigious one in the world of motorsport. It's seen as one of the top 5 tracks in the world, along with the other wonderful tracks such as Monaco, Daytona, Le Mans, and Indianapolis. That's the other one that people tend to bring up in that. I personally think that Spa should be amongst those as well. But Sebring, definitely one of the top ones. It's a Grand Prix circuit. It hosted a Grand Prix back in 1959, admittedly on a slightly different layout, and that was the very first US Grand Prix, and Jack Brabham won the World Championship here, wrapping it up as his teammate Bruce McLaren became the youngest Grand Prix winner in history, a record which stood for decades, sorry, not centuries. However, it's much better known as an endurance circuit. It's hosted the Sebring 12 Hours time and time again. Not entirely sure how many Sebring 12 Hours there have been, but I know it's been running since at least the 50s, and still running very strong to this day with IMSA and the WEC, the World Endurance Championship, of course, now also runs a 1,000-kilometer race here as well. So. It's always a driver's dream to win on a track that's had this much history and is this well renowned. And it's looking good at the minute for the ACR drivers, David Mrožek and Jernej Simončić. So let's see what they can do at the start.
11th position then is Matti Galea with Marjatov alongside, making it an all GT Omega RPM row 12. Ben Schupanek starts from 13th, along with the FA Racing Esports car of Ibrahim Al-Mubarak. Martin Vindis starts 15th with Zoltan Schuting, the second of the Corvette, in 16th, with Cor Holmer 17th, Gordy Gunn in 18th, and Jonas Sondergaard in 19th, rounding out the field for 2 hours worth of racing as they head onto the Ulmann Straight behind the Corvette pace before we get ourselves to some beautiful green flag running. We've seen how Simončić has struggled off starts. We've seen how the likes of Risto Kapit wants to go out there and get some big results. Yuri Kazdorp has always been able to move through the field and has shown that race pace is the specialty. Unknown factor in Peter Briliak. Everyone knows how good he is. He is brilliant Briliak at times, but we'll see how that goes in. What about Jajovski, Caruso, Parisis, any one of the top 8 in prime position as they make their way around Sunset Bend, round 3, the halfway stage of the championship. Pace car dives down in onto the lane. Let's get ourselves ready for green flag running here at Sebring. Green flag drops, and let's get ourselves underway. Simončić already under pressure as they fan 3, almost 4 wide. They're going to go into turn 1. Not a wise decision. Backed out of it. Contact in the middle with 2-3 vehicles, and they just about are able to survive for the time being. There's contact in the mid-pack as Al-Mubarak, I believe it is, gets a bit of a tap as they go through. Caruso's been shuffled down the order as he tries to find himself a little bit of space that narrows and tightens up, and there's a turnaround, and it is Al-Mubarak who's into the grass already, so not ideal. Schuti gets a turnaround as well in the middle of the pack, so a very messy start, and he's caught one of the RPM, I believe it is. No, that's Gordy Gunn, who's been hit one of the Atlantic machines. So a big start, but crucially Mrožek leads, but Kapit already up into second.
Yes, seemed that Al Mubarak, Shiti, and Galea went around in separate incidents, I believe, and Gordy Gunn just had nowhere to go. Martin Vindes as well, he's now dropped behind Al Mubarak, but continues on his way. So we've still got 19 cars remaining in this race, albeit with some heavily hampered. Yanni Simoncic, of course, had a big slide through turn 1. I was very glad to see him get away with that, because I thought that at least one person was going to end up firing off into the infamous tyre wall on the outside there. But everyone's still continuing for the time being. And I'm expecting this next straight here to be where it all kicks off, because this is where the slipstream happens. These GT3 start to have an effect.
Well, it's down 3 positions already for Enemed Simoncic after a slide in the opening lap. Yuri back now. Risto Capit. This is the championship battle at the moment between these two. They've been fighting very. Comes Yuri Kazdorp looking to take side at Sunset Bend. Got to be brave to do that. Capit takes the wide line, shallow line coming in then from Kazdorp, who can't get on the exit, and just like that, Capit survives. And the more they fight, the more they allow Davin Rojek the chance to break away as one lap scores its track. Erhan Yayovsky, so he's found aces. Wide goes Capit. This opens the door for Kazdorp through the kink of 2 and in towards turn number 8. From Risto Capit, and now he's worrying about his own teammate. So up into second goes Yuri Kazdorp, forced the unforced error, and there goes Risto Capit in third. Now has his teammate to fight.
So Mrochek leads from Kazdorp and Capit and Yayovsky, but we're going towards the hairpin here. No one close enough to make a move, although there's going to be a bit. Oh, and actually Yayovsky's run into the back of Capit. There's contact. A bit came off the front of Kazdorp's car. In fact, it's one of the front right wing plates has come off Capit's car, Yayovsky's car rather. So he's going to have some very slight damage and possibly some very slight understeer. Here comes Simoncic on the inside line. That's an ambitious place to pull a move, and Yayovsky had every right to defend that and did so. Also into the pits came Sundergaard at the end of lap 1. That's interesting since I don't see any damage on the car. Simoncic now coming under attack from Paresis and all of that as well. But hey Jake, could you remind us what rule 1 of motorsport is?
Rule 1 of motorsport, do not hit your teammate. Rule 2 of motorsport, do not hit your teammate. You have to make sure that you do not hit your teammate. It is the cardinal sin that everyone makes sure that they never ever do. And of course, it seems like they already have broken the first rule. Capit and Yayovsky back in the pack though, still in this train. You've got Caruso, Briliak, and now Moritz Mailer having to play defensive against Briliak here on the outside is the Edge Esports driver in 8th place, looking to get past the Rookie Monsters car on the inside now as they head through Sunset Bend, looking to try and make this move, and it's a brave move around the outside for Peter Briliak. If he can hold it there, he's got the inside at turn 1. He's now just got to make sure that he's got a little bit of draft from teammate Jim Paresis.
And here comes Kazdorp to the outside of Mrochek. Sorry to interrupt there, but Kazdorp really set himself up there. He's got it on the exit. He's got the overspeed rather, and now towards Christensen corner. He's on the inside line. That's close. That's very tight. And David Mrochek keeps the position for now. I was sure that Kazdorp was going to get him either into turn 1 or on the exit, so my apologies for interrupting. And we've had our first retirement at Jordan's duty, but let's look back at Kazdorp now. So David Mrochek towards the last of the late breakers for, well, Mrochek misses the apex very slightly, but it wasn't up on the exit. Kazdorp again through here, and again with still flips are coming because
the bout as well. So good work there from Kazdorp, getting past Davin Mrochek early. Now Risto Capit will know I've got to get onto the back and really quickly and make sure that those times are going to stay very consistent. Caruso is struggling though out on track. Ben Schupanek has found a way through now up into 9th position, which is very key in terms of the long and short of Caruso and the team's championship at the moment, with the two AAA cars third and fourth. It will be advantage to them still, as a big load of grass taken up by Yayovsky will be worrying as Enemed Simoncic to sit and wait behind. That championship will lean even more so in favour of AAA if results stay as they are at the moment, but they have 2 hours and they've only done 6 of the 120 minutes that are up there on the clock. Mrozek already in trouble at the moment, has already dropped back a full second in half a lap. That is concerning for Mrozek and race pace at the moment. Risto Capit very much tucked in behind will say, well, if you're a second a lap slower than Yuri Kazdorp, then I have every chance in the world of trying to find a way through. So Capit this lap here, Caitlin, will need to try and make the move, and quickly at the moment, as Schupanek has to try and defend from Herman Stocci, in 11th position, fails to do so. Position for the Rookie Monsters car.
Yeah, it was Schupanek himself that was actually attacking Matteo Caruso towards one. So obviously he's managed to cost himself some time in doing so, and also cost himself a position to Stocci now. However, I was interested by Capit on the back of Mrozek, because once again it appears that the Audis just aren't as quick as the Aston Martins or the Mercedes at the very start of the race. And Capit, of course, is the championship leader, so we know that he has the control of these cars. We know that he's extremely quick in them. And I'd be surprised if Capit hasn't gone for a move by the end of next lap, maybe even this lap, because of course we have this long straight about to come up as soon as he's gone through the sort of car park-ish sector. It's not a car park, but that's just what it reminds me of. And out towards the straight we head right now.
And on that straight, everyone is going to be looking to try and find just what they are looking for at the moment. Everyone is just waiting at this point in time for the right attack. And at the moment, the right attack for Davin Mrozek is to defend the best possible. Ibrahim Al-Mubarak officially classified as out of this race, not what he was looking to expect at this early venture. So no moves into Sunset Bend, not for Mrozek, not for Enemed Simoncic either, who is tucked up underneath Yayovsky very, very comfortably at this stage in time. So right now, I think Erhan Yayovsky is looking more rather behind than he is in front, already 3.5 seconds back off of the lead. But Enemed Simoncic just tucked underneath, just waiting for the right time to strike, and that right time could be at any time. Of course, strategy even more important, wider, elongated with this longer race format.
So, a couple of interesting points further back. Of course, you say that Al-Mubarak is out of the race. He is. He just wasn't looking comfortable with the car and retired. But also, I've just seen a penalty assigned to Kerr Homer, who's currently running in 30th position. It's a longest line penalty, and I actually don't know what that means. I wonder whether that means it's a penalty assigned because of track extending, but at the same time, it seems to me as if the longest line penalty is a penalty of its own. So whatever that is, it might well soon become clear. But yeah, any ideas, Jake?
I have no ideas, but I am just getting word in that the cars 23 and 13 are to receive drive-through penalties, so they will both be in all sorts of issues in the early goings.
That's not Kerr Homer. Did you say 24 and 13?
I said 23 and 13. Oh, big wiggle from Yayovsky coming out of Tower Corner. My word, how did he save it?
Pretty 13 doesn't... So, that may be wrong there.
Well, a huge... able to say... have to be careful of. AAA know that better than any. It's just about the way, and there is a change of position, a multi-21 between the two edge cars, as now there is a half look from Simoncic down the inside at Sunset Bend. Not going to happen, but Peter Briliak comfortably gets through on Jim Paresis in a coordinated overtake then. So Jim Paresis knows Peter Briliak is the faster of the two edge Aston Martins. I'll let you go now. You'll be able to pull me along, hopefully, over towards Simoncic and Yoyoski, who are now starting to look like they're going to fight just a little bit harder here. 10 minutes of the 120 score completes. They start lap 6 of the event, and every single position becomes a vital battling point, as now Yoyoski just able to extend through the opening sector and just able to pull that gap out just a little bit more, but ran very wide through turn 5. This is going to open the chance here for Simoncic to try around the outside of Big Ben into turn 7 to go the outside line again. So Yoyoski fighting 4th position hard. On the brakes they go into the right-hander, and look at the ability to hold low corner speed from the Audi. Just not able to get that move done just yet.
Yeah, so as the race continues, still it's very close between Yoyoski and Simoncic. Take a slight look at the attack. Run wide into the corner, impressive. And Yoyoski gets sideways and they touch and off over the grass. Goes past nearly, and there's going to be more slight contact there. They're lucky that they didn't go over the gravel and the grass again. Just about getting away with it. Someone, is that, I think Simoncic was possibly flashing his lights there going down the straight. Yes, he was. So obviously Simoncic feels aggrieved by what Yoyoski is done. Oh, yeah. Well, he's going defensive, pulling over to the right-hand side of the road, defending from Simoncic. And you see the two Aston Martins behind, following them across the road. There's a move going on. Caruso passing Moritz Mel, as it looks as if there's going to be no change just yet between Simoncic and Co. But Caruso takes 8th from Moritz Mel, and now Simoncic almost gets on the exit.
Oh no, that's off!
So he is.
Bang! Into the wall, out to the final corner, just tapped it. Goes around in a 360, able to save it is Moritz Mailer, but able to get back going. But how much damage, and will that force the 2-stop already into position for Mailer? That was a big incident, as we apologise for a couple of audio issues that you may be hearing at the moment. Just did not play into his hands as he tried to get back on the offensive as quickly as possible. All of a sudden, Peter Briliak now starts becoming the offensive coordinator all over the back then of Enemed Simoncic, trying to get this move sorted. Can this move be done as they get on the brakes? Around the outside is difficult for Briliak. Try and get this to work, and Briliak and Simoncic have done it many a time before, and just like that, position is maintained for the moment for Simoncic.
Okay, can I be heard? Okay, well, I'm not so sure if you can hear me right now. I hope you can. Jake is just setting up, so my apologies for the slight break there. We had a few technical issues, but I believe we are set up right now. And Jake, can you hear us?
Yes, loud and clear as battling continues out on track, and everybody now looking at that battle between 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and now 8th as Caruso jumps onto the rear of that one as well. Everyone just looking a little bit shaky at the moment as the lights are starting to fade here at Sebring already in the early stages. The headlights very much on, and we are going to descend into the darkness at the moment, and everyone is going to be in a position now to try and battle as hard as possible. But that 5-car train becomes the big looking point as Erhan Yoyoski gets us forwarded a drive-through penalty after all that really tough battling. So Yoyoski ultimately pays the price, and it's going to be a long day at the office as he pulls over to one side and effectively says, nope, I'm done.
Just quickly, is this better, or am I going to cut out?
I believe you're going a little bit too far the other way, so to speak. So Yoyoski says, that's it, I'm done at this point in time. So he pulls over to one side, says, you know what? I don't like the penalty. I'm just going to say my day is going to be done. So Simoncic, Briliak, Parisis and Caruso all gain a position 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th position right now, and Yoyoski's retirement now means so much in terms of that team's championship. Risto Capit now has to score twice the amount of points as his rivals Kazdorp and also Matteo Caruso.
It certainly does, and I don't normally slam drivers for things they do, but I'm afraid to say that's fairly childish there from Yoyoski. He still had plenty of opportunities to score points, and the AAA, who are fighting for a championship there, and a championship that is worth quite a bit in terms of bragging rights, and I think there is also a prize money pool as well. And personally, I don't understand why he's retired from the race there. I think it's a huge shame, and I think it's going to cast a bit of a shadow over the race. So, yeah, sorry for being a bit too outspoken, but that's just my opinion on the matter.
Well, either way, the race is going to continue, and it continues in the hands of Yuri Kazdorp, who has already pulled up a 4-second margin at the front of the field and is already looking at lap traffic here. Martin Vindis almost able to go one lap down at this point in time. Kazdorp leads from David Mrozek, Risto Capit currently in 3rd, but Risto Capit's not gone too far away here from David Mrozek, within 1.2 seconds at the moment at the front of the field. So this is where the big change of the game is going to be. Can Risto Capit get past David Mrozek and hope that something happens very similar to what happened at Virginia to Yuri Kazdorp? Doesn't happen often, but I think that's the only way Risto Capit has any chance of picking up points against his rival in this one to get as much damage mitigated as possible.
Okay, I hope I've just sorted out my microphone issues. I'm going to have to put my face closer to it to make sure that I'm not some kind of mouse, but whatever the case, Matteo Caruso there not getting a good exit to the hairpin, and I think it wasn't Caruso I was looking at there, it was Capit. So, wait, no. Okay, never mind, I'm being confused because I'm 300 seconds behind, so that'll be why I'm getting confused there. Anyway, we have got Kazdorp still leading from Mrozek and Capit, and the night is truly starting to fall here at Sebring.
It is, as the battle for the top 10 heats up. This is Bent Shupanek and Itamar Yativ going at it. Yativ in the BMW, trying to look at the inside, turns to the outside as Shupanek's Corvette defends. No, bang! Both of them come together at sunset. Yativ using all of the runoff of the club circuit, able to save himself and keep going, but a clumsy incident between Shupanek and Itamar Yativ, 2 into 1 in the corner of 1004 lines. Surely you can't both choose the same line.
Yeah, I'm just gonna have a look back at that and see exactly what happened. I was a bit preoccupied with my microphone. Who came together, sorry?
It was Shupanek and Yativ coming together at the Sunset Bend.
So it was, yeah. 2 into 1, not going, especially through there. It's a fast corner, and they're lucky that they kept out of that tyre wall there, because you can get some heavy damage there. And actually, they've stayed relatively stationary in terms of positions, with Shupanek 10th and Yativ in 11th place. Although they are going to lose a lot of time from that, and their tyres are going to be screaming for help.
They are, and of course, that gap to Matthew Galea, now only 3 seconds for Itamar Yativ. It was up a lot higher than that, a good 7 seconds it was at one point in time, but Shupanek now only 2 seconds ahead of Yativ. It'll be interesting to see how the stewards are going to react to an incident like that, but this does bring a little bit of calm then into this race at the moment as we reach ourselves at the 1/6 distance of this race with Yuri Kazdorp in control at the moment. The question becomes, though, strategy. Who's been attacking really hard in these early stages, using a lot of the fuel? Who hasn't been using that fuel up? Because you look at the likes of, say, Jim Parisis, Peter Briliak, I think the pair of them will probably be trying to play the long game here, try and save as much fuel as possible over the course of a race like this, and try and get themselves into a prime position into the future. So we'll see how that works, trying to leapfrog one position, two positions maybe, but a second place last time out for Jim Parisis, maybe more wanted here, as they are currently 5th and 6th, the two edge vehicles.
Sorry, yeah, of course you were talking there about fuel saving, which is something that we've seen a lot of at Silverstone and VIR, and arguably not enough of either, because of course at both circuits a lot of people ended up diving into the pit lane later on in the races, and some drivers didn't, such as Rodchek in the last race, and he ended up having to creep around the circuit at a massively reduced speed to avoid running out of fuel, and I believe he even coasted across the lane at the end as well. So yeah, with a 2-hour long race, of course it's going to make it impossible to make it to the end without making a pit stop. I'm expecting at least one pit stop, probably two. I would definitely see 2 pit stops coming in from some people, and I think that because pit stops are guaranteed today, we're going to expect to start seeing them at around 40 minutes into the race potentially, so about 19 minutes from now, and that could really spice things up a bit and shake up the order potentially.
It certainly could here, as the track has very much descended into said darkness at the moment, with Yuri Kasdorp still controlling the field, but that gap not extending as much as it was. That gap remains around 4 seconds at the moment, as the Audi now starts to find itself in good control. And this is another point that does need to be talked about. This track is only 29 degrees at the moment because of just how cold it's going to be as night does descend. That track may decrease in temperature, may fall into the Audi's hands a little bit more, which does, in my view, take a little bit longer to get those tyres up to an operating window, which really does favour. So maybe this is going to be where Davin Mrozek gets himself into a good position, where he just sits and waits and uses these colder conditions to come back at Yuri Kasdorp 4.2 seconds down the road.
Kasdorp 4.2 seconds down the road as it stands. There is a back marker between them. That's one of the McLaren drivers there. That'll be Jonas Sundergaard, who gets out of the way rather nicely. Sundergaard, I believe, not one of the drivers we've seen before in this championship, so welcome in. Running in 15th position as it stands. And of course his teammate as well as another new driver, Cor Holmer, running 2 positions up, and we haven't seen either of those drivers yet in the series, and that's because we haven't even seen their team. Looking at the team standings, that's a team that hasn't made a show yet. So welcome in to the team known as B32 Racing. They've brought in two McLarens, which are currently running in 13th and 15th positions. Into the pits comes Gordy Gunn. That's much earlier than I would have expected. So he is making an early stop and possibly even trying a 3-stop strategy. I think that's a little bit far-fetched, but whatever the case, maybe a damage that we can't see or something. Currently in 14th position, probably going to drop down the order a bit. The gap between the 2 leaders there isn't going to come down while they're going through, or probably won't come down while they're going through traffic. But I'm sure that later in the race, the pit stops might well spice things up.
They might well. I'm just getting word in from the stewards that car 07 is due a drive-through penalty. That car number 07, I do believe, I don't have to my hand at the moment, but cars 28 and 24 under investigation at the moment. And those will be Itamar Yativ and Ben Schupanek, who will both be classified as under investigation for their incident that they had earlier on in the races. Gordy Gunn comes out of pit road and will also come out of pit road behind Jonas Sondergaard, so will fall back into a net 16th position and 1 lap down at the moment. And pitting here at the moment, just 25 minutes into this race, is not ideal for Gordy Gunn, because that sets him up currently on pace for a 4-stop strategy, which I don't think is the most optimal, and I'm not the best at maths.
Testing. Is my volume slightly better now?
I'm hearing you loud and clear. That's all that needs to be said at the moment. But
okay, jolly good. Yeah. As I said, much too early for Gordy Gunn. Not sure if he had damage or something that we didn't see, but that is much too early, and I can't say he's having the best of races at the minute. Hopefully it's going to go better for him towards the end, but you have to keep in mind that so long as you finish this race, there are going to be other people who retire, most probably, and as a result you will probably end up picking up significant points, definitely points at least. So it's definitely worth it, and even if you don't score points, it's valuable experience of the like you can't really get in single player sessions or in AI races or even lesser club races or whatever. So Gordy Gunn getting some track time at the minute, and may will come into play for higher positions later on, although I can't say his strategy is looking promising at the minute.
Keeping an eye out on Enemed Sebring versus Peter Briliak. This is the battle for 5th place at the moment out on the road. Peter Briliak able to close that gap down to just half a second, but there's more traffic which hasn't helped. Catching the draft there in front of, I believe that is Martin Vindis there, did Enemed Sebring, so that's not going to be helpful at all, especially as it seems that the Audi is starting to come back here. Davin Mrozek cuts the gap at the front of the field once again, now down to just 3.5 seconds then to Yuri Kazdorp, as Mrozek again just looks to chip away at the gap silently, just working away against Yuri Kazdorp, and Kazdorp may just have to look back in the mirrors as he decides to fuel save at this juncture in the race. Just 26 minutes, the 2-stop window opening in about 14 minutes-ish time, which is around about 7 laps, so that's going to be a good challenge for a lot of drivers to try and make that work. Sebring, though, gets around Vindis happily, but Peter Briliak certainly does not, and all of a sudden there's a second down the road which Briliak will really badly want to get back. He's in fact 1.5 seconds almost now down the road.
We've now had a penalty as well, a 5-second penalty for Bent Jupinek, who's currently running in 10th position. We haven't had it confirmed why that is, although I presume it was for the accident that we saw between him and Itamar Yatev. I don't really see what else it could have been, with the exception of potentially track limits. Whatever the case, Bent Jupinek running in 10th position as it stands will be taking a 5-second penalty, and I presume that's going to be added to his race time, since I don't see a 5-second stop-go being put into play. In fact, I don't think rFactor 2 can actually do 5-second stop-goes. It tends to be 10 seconds or nothing. So we'll keep that in mind. At the end of the race, his time plus 5 seconds is going to show you where he actually finished. In a 2-hour race, that's probably not going to make much difference, but it could, and we've definitely seen it making a big difference in the past, especially since now he's got Itamar Yatev right back on his tail again.
Well, take 2 then, as Yatev thinks about where do I best make this move as I get my words into a bit of a muddle, as at the moment, the fact that they're battling so hard, Bent Jupinek would actually fall behind Matthew Galea, and that will drop him back to 12th position. But again, that BMW looking to try and battle with the grunt of the Corvette down the straight and over towards Sunset Bend, where the incident happened just a few laps ago. On the brakes, big lunge down to the inside. Jupinek takes the uber wide line through the corner, trying to open up the exit and leave no opportunities for attack into turn number 1. No dice then comes along for Yatev for the moment, but there is still time, and that's the crucial factor. Time always being of the essence. Bent Jupinek at the moment just sitting playing the waiting game. He's got to go out there and race hard. He's got to make a 5-second gap to Yatev to get to where he needs to. No point about worrying who's in front. Moritz Mailer is 10 seconds down the road. No chance of catching up. Mailer in no man's land.
Yatev, of course, was a driver who did very well in the early stages of the race last time out at Virginia International Raceway, was making up a lot of positions. I think was even running it in P4 at one point, although sadly later on in the race it appeared that the reason he was so fast in the early stages is because he was running light on fuel and he had to make a pit stop, which dropped him down the order. However, coming to show us what he can do at this round, I'm sure it's going to be learning from his mistakes. I expect he probably didn't know that that drivers were going to be able to make the race without making a pit stop last time out, but now you've got a two-hour race. Everyone is going to have to make at least one stop, probably two, I'd say, although again, I get pretty nervous every time I say that, since I know I'm probably going to be proved wrong, but whatever the case, Itmar Yativ here is going to be using slightly more fuel than you, slightly less fuel than usual, sorry, because he's got a slight slipstream from the car ahead, which is going to be taking some pressure off the torque of his engine. And as a result, this is going to be helping him slightly, but I don't think he'll be thinking about that. I don't think he should. I think he should push and get past Ben Schupanek as quickly as he possibly can, because that gives him more time to play with in terms of the race and in terms of a clear track as well. So for Itmar Yativ here, he's going to be in attack mode.
Well, we'll see how that one plays out then, as Yativ cannot quite make the move around the outside, heading into the final section of track. No dice at that section of road, but keep an eye on the race lead battle. It now becomes 3 seconds for Yuri Kazdorp, who is starting to save that fuel, where David Mrozek is able just to pull away that little bit quicker, that little bit faster at the moment. Risto Capit very conservatively in third position right now, 9 seconds off of the race lead, with Jurnej Simoncic in fourth, just 2.2 seconds down the road, bringing along Peter Briliak, and trying to stay on 1.7 seconds back of that is Jim Parisis, who really cannot afford to be left behind, because Matteo Caruso sits lurking in 7th position overall. So keep an eye on this one then, because we're keeping David Mrozek in mind. Mrozek yet to have a podium, 24 points off the championship lead after 2 rounds of this race, of racing action, sorry, and this is where Mrozek can really get his season back on track. A race victory here could do wonders and give himself maybe a good 8.7 point back to the likes of Yuri Kazdorp, Risto Capit, and bring himself right back into the championship hunt heading to Imola.
He is catching. It's slower than otherwise well, it's slower than it seemed at first, although he is definitely catching. But the gap's still 3.222 seconds between Kazdorp and Mrozek as it stands, and now it breaks under the 3-second barrier for the first time since the very first lap of the race. So Kazdorp and Mrozek, that gap does seem to be shrinking. I am wondering how hard they're both pushing in terms of fuel and tyres at this point in time, but that will all be become clear later on in the race. And at the minute, at least, the gap is coming down, and another one that's coming down is that between Simoncic and Briliak for 4th and 5th positions. Simoncic, of course, dropped to 5th early on in the race with a slight wiggle through turn 1. He's now back up to 4th because of Yuyovsky's retirement. But Petar Briliak wants to take that away from him. They've got Jim Parisis not too far down the road behind them as well. In terms of other fights on track, still Schupanek versus Yativ is raging hard. Yativ dipping wheels into the grass there because he's pushing so hard to try to get back at Ben Schupanek here. But mainly at this point in time, I'm interested in the leaders and also 4th and 5th, Simoncic versus Briliak.
Well, we'll see how that one goes in. Keep an eye on Risto Capit as well in all of that battle as well. That gap has come down under 2 seconds as well. So Capit gets a lot of grass there coming off of the exit of Tower Corner, and that's not going to be helpful in terms of putting the power down, and cannot afford here, Caitlin, to get into any scraps. We saw Yuyovsky's retirement earlier on in this race. This means that Capit has to fight with everybody and also score more points. Can't do that, though, because of the fact that Capit is falling away from Yuri Kazdorp and David Mrozek, and also you've got Jurnej Simoncic trying to chase down behind, which is never ever going to be quite helpful, especially when Peter Briliak is being dragged along as well, as everyone makes their way down the Ullman Straight into Sunset Bend. Once again, Risto Capit will be the man under pressure, as Peter Briliak is now not necessarily fighting Jurnej Simoncic, but more rather trying to stay with Jurnej Simoncic.
Well, the difficulty with fighting in these cars, in terms of fighting side by side, is that it's very difficult to judge where the edge of your car is, and as a result, it's easy to get locked together and go off into the grass, as we saw with Yuyovsky and Rodchek earlier. Of course, look at the size of the overhangs of the wheel arches on the Mercedes, the Aston Martin, the Porsche famously. The Corvette has the most massive rear end that you can imagine, and I say that with the utmost respect. No, never a bad thing to have a massive rear end. But anyway, that's for stability, of course. Wider cars do tend to be more stable, and as a result, if you find yourself alongside another car where you think your wheels are, you have to apply a little bit more breathing room, a little bit more margin for error, because there's a very slight overhang from your bodywork, and even when there isn't, your wheels are actually quite far apart as well, because you've got big chunky tires and quite a wide width of car, very low, very wide, and as a result, it does tend to be quite difficult to run side by side and not come together. But anyway, I think the Battle of the 10th is about to become interesting, because they've got a backmark here to put a lap down. That's Jonas Soundegaard, who has got out of the way of the leaders pretty nicely and doesn't tend to get involved, but oh dear, that one was changed altogether there. I don't think Yativ knew he was there, so when Jupinek pulled out to pass the McLaren, Yativ was taking a look to the left-hand side of Shupinek's car, and suddenly had a face full of McLaren and nowhere to go, and there was slight contact there, although I think they both just about got away with it.
I can't blame Sondergaard in that position. He was on the outside there, heading through Tower Corner. There was nowhere that Yativ was really looking at in terms of making a move. I think he just outbroke himself there and really just ran into the back of Sondergaard, who won't be best pleased in terms of that instant out there on the road. Capit, though, has been caught by Jurnej Simoncic. The gap 9/10 of a second now at the front of the field as Kasdorp starts to clear a gap once again. But Risto Capit now is playing defense, now has to play the big damage limitation game. The battle 3rd, 4th and 5th out there on the road now suddenly closes up together.
3rd, 4th, 5th, Capit, Simoncic, Briliak, each of the three separated from the car in front by less than a second, putting them in a proper slipstreaming chain style of battle. And I tell you what, looking at the times as well, Jim Paresis is catching on the pair of them, just 2 seconds behind, which is where he's been for the last couple of laps. Although I'm sure that if these three start fighting side by side, Paresis is going to get right into the thick of it in just a couple of laps, so he just needs to sit there and wait. But let's watch Simoncic, who's right in the middle of a sandwich of attacking cars here. You've got Capit defending and trying to pull away from the chain behind, and then you've got Briliak pushing the chain from the back and really driving them forward, saying, you know, don't fall asleep, because I'm here to go bump in the night.
Well, we'll see how Jurnej Simoncic decides to attack. Same for Briliak, same for Paresis, as they continue on their challenges and their pushes. Matteo Caruso not out of the story either, down in 7th position. Still a minor haul of points, but that will be points enough, which will be very good for Singularity, who are looking to try and regain their lead in the team's championship. They are finding themselves just 10 points back off of the lead, and this will be a very strong finish, as it will for Edge, who find themselves 6th and 5th, but it will be Avid Chronic who will get the best point haul out of everyone if things were to stay like this. A 1st and a 2nd and a 4th from Mrozek and Simoncic at the moment. So we'll see how that one plays out, as Risto Capit has not really been put under pressure for an attack. He's just been put under pressure for, okay, we are here and we are ready sort of battling for Enemed, Simoncic, Peter Briliak. It isn't out of the question to say, I'm sitting behind you and saving my fuel, making sure that you are out there in that dirty air as that windbreak for me, so that I can maybe go an extra 1 lap, an extra 2 laps on my fuel, so I'm able to outbid you when it comes to my pit stop, quicker on the in lap and quicker on the out lap.
Well, you mentioned pressure, and Capit is definitely feeling it. He just dipped wheels in the grass twice in the space of about 10 seconds, and now he's had a big swapper on towards turn, I think that's turn 14 there potentially, and got a little bit sideways, and the car just snapping back into action. Simoncic right on his tail again. You saw Capit doing that, no, it wasn't Capit, was it? It was Yovski who had a big slide through there earlier, so Capit now doing the same thing. And I think that Simoncic is going to be right in his slipstream down the straight. The Audi does tend to react well to the slipstream because the Mercedes is so much wider than it. So as a result, if the Audi sticks in the Mercedes slipstream, it just gets so much of a wind block, so much of a shield, and it's just like a dart at that point. But anyway, Simoncic on the inside very nearly tags the wall there, cuts the corner completely. I think he had to steer out of the corner and lose a little bit of time mid-turn there, because he suddenly found himself right up against the wall trying to attack Risto Capit. Peter Briliak appeared to get the best exit of the three, but again Capit feels the pressure. Simoncic runs slightly wider, I think just setting himself up for a faster exit, although missing the apex, and Briliak was close, and he has been for the last several laps. And I'm wondering here, what's going to happen first? Is Capit going to make the mistake that allows Simoncic through, or is it going to be Simoncic doing so for Briliak?
Well, the 2-stop window is open if you want to come down in and make that stop. We'll see if that plays out into favour as Briliak again has a little nose towards the inside. He has a mosey, but he doesn't decide that he wants to go and make that move any further. So Peter Briliak just sits in that waiting game and just decides, you know what, Enemed, I've got a pit stop where I can try and jump you. Don't you worry about things for the moment. I'm going to sit and wait and hold my position. Maybe that's the same for Simoncic right now as they sit behind Risto Capit. It's not been the quickest lap in the world either, and the fact that they are sat in those positions is not going to be too helpful for the long run either. The more vehicles that are added to the train, the more life is going to be difficult for those in the middle, the more chance of incident to occur. That may be a part of the strategy of Risto Capit, who effectively probably has to wait for someone to dive in behind. Someone's got to try and be bold and make that first call onto the lane. Might not be now, might be in 5-10 laps time, but it's a waiting game at the moment. Whoever blinks first sends the entire train down onto the lane.
I just saw a bit of contact there between Itmar Yativ and Ben Shupanak. Yativ went for 10th. Meanwhile, you've got Briliak going for Simoncic here. Takes a look to the inside. He's going to have to back out of that one. That's not a place that you can really pull a move. Catches a bump and goes a little bit wider than he would have liked there. Although definitely, I think Briliak saw an opportunity there, and I reckon that was a fully fledged overtaking attempt. But anyway, they all get away with it in the same order that they went into it in. Capit again, slower entry into turn 1, but a slightly faster exit than Simoncic. Actually, I'm not so sure about that, because Simoncic definitely got closer through turn 1 there. But as I was saying, yeah, about a lap ago we had Yativ going up the inside of Shupanak for 10th place into turn 1. Made slight contact with him. It was wheel-to-wheel contact, and Shupanak ended up going off and through the grass. So Yativ has 10th position for now. Shupanak will probably feel slightly aggrieved, although Yativ was clearly going for it for several laps before that as well. And now we focus our attentions back onto the race for P3 between Capit, Simoncic and Briliak.
Yes, and at the moment it's Peter Briliak who is probably the favourite to make a move at this point in time. Another look into Cunningham Corner on the brakes into the 90-degree right-hander, but again, no dice through that section, and it is another case of trying to open up every corner to be in favour. Jim Paresis, a bit of help, teammate there behind, now jumps onto the train. He was within 9/10 of it, he's now within 9/10 of a second here of Peter Briliak, so very much getting all of the help from the draft, and even if you have a teammate, that is one teammate more that can help out. So Peter Briliak will look to try and be the pick. And this is where I start asking this next question here, Caitlin. We saw earlier multi-21 orders come in. Peter Briliak allowed through by Jim Paresis. Does the favour now get returned by Peter Briliak? Jim Paresis, I may be faster. I've been out in cleaner air. I haven't really hurt my tyres because I'm stuck in dirty air, so to speak. Do you want to let me have a go so I can go out there and attack? We are close to that pit stop window as well. We can always trade them back after the stops. As you can see, Simoncic take a really narrow line.
Well, I'm not so sure about that. Of course, definitely they could swap places, and Briliak could say, basically, hey, you know, you have a go, see if you can do better than I did, and then try to follow him through as it happens. Although Briliak does appear to be, no, I do say that Briliak appears to be the faster driver overall because he was so much faster in qualifying and at the start of the race. Of course, Paresis has been faster in the last couple of laps because he's had that clean air. So yeah, I can see them potentially swapping and letting Paresis have a go. Although personally, if I was Edge, I'd keep them in the same order. I'd have Briliak go for a move, and then I would try to follow him through if I was Jim Paresis. I've seen that working before between teammates. I've seen teammates working together to pass several people at once, especially in stock car racing, touring car racing, and occasionally kart racing as well. It's more difficult to pull off in a GT, but it can be done. And we're just about to head up towards Sunset Bend, one of the main overtaking opportunities of the track again. So we'll see what happens this time around.
We certainly will. Battle also going on for 12th and 11th position. Ben Schubeneck has fallen into the clutches of the other GT Omega car as around the outside he tries to move. Contact between them and forced off the road. The pair of them, Schubeneck then and Galea. That was not what they were thinking of at that point in time. So Galea ultimately cannot get it done around the outside. It was a game of chicken and both of them forgot to brake. They both fell off the cliff. Galea does get the position, but there are going to be questions about the legitimacy of that move though, Caitlin, because it wasn't conducted on the circuit.
It wasn't. They definitely took the rallycross route, what my best friend would call a joker lap. But anyway, they still continuing in the race, and for now they're in 11th and 12th positions, so we'll see what comes of that. But you know, they both went off the road, so it may well be that it's judged to be fair enough, as clumsy and as messy as it may have been.
Well, we've just seen how that one seemingly plays out as now Briliak starts to get aggressive through turn 4 and can't quite get it done, looking towards turn 5. Now you're starting to see a little bit of frustration kick in there for Briliak. Now starting to look at places where you don't traditionally start seeing moves made in races like these and thinking, is there a chance for me to do it? Defensive line taken by Simoncic into the hairpin, which is one of the big overtaking places out on track. So clearly Jurnej Simoncic is worried by Peter Briliak, by his pace, has raced all too often, all too many times before. Two brilliant starlets of the rFactor scene, and now on the brakes they go into Cunningham Corner once again. It seems for the time being anyway, as there's a slide coming up there from Risto Capit, that it's all stations at the same, but they are starting to look behind at one certain Matteo Caruso, who isn't too far out of the realms of possibility here. 2.5 seconds back. That gap can close if Risto Capit continues to aggressively fuel save and defend the way that he is at the moment.
Less aggressive fuel saving, more aggressive defense at the minute from Capit. You saw him going over the grass again, dipping wheels in, and really needs to focus on the exit to the corners because he's not getting great exits, especially there. You saw him bobbling over the curb, bobbling being the technical term for that, with Simoncic catching. It's a bit of a dummy maneuver going towards Sunset Bend, and Capit is able to just carry the speed, although not turn it in as tight. And Simoncic will be on his right-hand side, and this could actually set him up really well for Sunset Bend. Capit is going to pull away for the time being. Simoncic takes the inside line. I personally would have gone for the switchback. However, Capit struggling with a bit of understeer at this point in the race, running wide. And you have to remember that the Audi is mid-engined, whereas the Mercedes is front-engined. So the Mercedes will naturally be a bit more understeery than the Audi, but it may also mean that the Mercedes, because most of the weight is going over the front tires, it may mean that Kappa has completely ruined the tires. Slight lunge there from Simoncic. I don't think he really thought that was going to work, especially after he started the manoeuvre. Ended up running over the curb to avoid running into the back of Kappa, and still managed to get a good exit anyway somehow.
Well, it was a lunge, and that was all it was at the moment. This is right before the pit stop window, the one-stop window, which opens in 10 minutes' time, which will keep everybody on their toes. Who will dare dive down onto pit road first? The gap at the front of the field has stayed around 3.2 to 3.5 seconds consistently between Yuri Kazdorp and David Morozek. Kazdorp just managing the race from the front. Risto Capit, though, has to be very, very cautious about how many points he is letting Risto Capit get. Risto Capit is worried about how many points Yuri Kazdorp is going to get. It's 27 points, maybe even 28 for a race victory, and he'll pretty much lose his championship lead by 2 points if he finishes in third position. He needs at least second, but being already 16 seconds behind second place, I think he's relying on a retirement of some kind, and especially when teammates are trying to fight the way through. Juraj Simoncic trying to find that way around and has been stuck for the better part of half a race so far, trying to find a way through on Risto Capit. This is going to be a tough challenge, and this is what Capit now needs to start thinking about here. And where will Simoncic make the move? Another look to the inside at turn one, this very long turn number one, but again, nothing doing. Another slide with the understeer that won't be helped with the going off tyres that Capit will be having. Simoncic just sitting, waiting. Briliak daring not to make a move, but really does show that he's got better pace at the moment than Simoncic, because he's all over the back.
Yeah, big slide. You call that skating into turn one when it happens from Kazdorp. You've seen that so many laps in a row. This time he took to the grass as well on the exit. Briliak right on the back of Simoncic as well. You can tell how much time Capit is costing this chain at this point in time. But you were talking about his championship lead there. Capit has been in a similar situation before, and he knows that he doesn't need to lead the championship at this point in time. All he needs to do to win it is lead at the end of the final round. So at this point in time, he needs to remember that he doesn't need to lead the championship here. When you go in with that mindset, yeah, it can motivate you, but also it can push you over the edge sometimes. It can make you lose concentration, and it can make you panic. And since Kazdorp appears to be struggling slightly with his tyres at this point in time, if I was him, I would be just trying to keep my head cool, keep myself on the road, and keep thinking exactly that. You know, I don't need to win this race. I don't need to lead the championship after this round. All I need to do is bag as many points as I get. Meanwhile, Yuri Kazdorp into the pits.
Yeah, Yuri Kazdorp then, and it's early for Yuri Kazdorp into the pits. 52 minutes. He will now have to make potentially a two-stop race out of this, because this is early, and this is early by about 4 laps for Yuri Kazdorp. So that has been just proof of how hard that Kazdorp has had to have been attacking in the early stages, as now Risto Capit gets under pressure. Here's Juraj Simoncic now, trying the long way around to make this move, and can he get the move fully done? There's a slide on the exit though, that's not going to be useful, and there's contact with Briliak, and Briliak is on the grass, and the stewards should look at that, because Briliak was not given a lane through that section of track. He keeps the position of third, but at what cost did he keep that position? Clearly, Risto Capit in all sorts of pressure at the moment, as this race has suddenly taken a really big development. Suddenly, Simoncic has been given the green light to attack, and he's starting to swarm behind, going to the outside now to try and make this move at turn 7. Risto Capit knows the length of his vehicle, another big slide, and now Caruso onto the back as well, which will be helpful for the singularity push in the Constructors' Challenge, and in terms of the teams battle as well. Briliak now will want to get through pretty quickly here and think about the move. Outside line taken at Cunningham Corner. Can he slow it up on the outside? Answer is yes. Finally, the move is done.
That is absolutely beautiful from Sebring there. He tried to do the same thing at turn 1, although Cabot got the car slowed down really nicely and just found the grip on the inside. There appears to be a lot of grip on the inside of turn 1 here, definitely more than on the outside, which is unusual through there, but that appears to be the case for today. And Sebring there, wonderful move around the outside of Cabot, who did. Props to Kappa. I've been saying he's struggling, but to be honest, he was not struggling too badly at all to keep the other cars behind him. He was doing a fantastic job in defense, held them off for a long time, and that will set him up well for when he has fresher tires. Now he's got Peter Briliak on his tail with Matteo Caruso following them through, Jim Paresis following them through, and then Matteo Caruso as well. Cabot's going to very nearly slide wide. I think he may end up regretting not going for a two-stop in this race, but he may also not if it ends up working out for him, as obvious as that is for me to say. But we currently have 65 minutes left in the race out of 120, so we're very nearly at the halfway point. It definitely seems that everyone who's gone to this stage has committed to a one-stop strategy. As for Kasdorp, I'm actually not sure. He definitely pitted too early for what I'd be a one-stop strategy, and he's actually come out in traffic as well for Jubinek. So this is a little bit worrying for Kasdorp at this point in time. And I think he will be just as worried as I am that he's selected the right strategy. Of course, there's no guarantees that he has. And towards the end of the race, it's going to be a battle of strategies here. Is fresher tyres and less fuel better than fewer pit stops?
Well, that is yet to be seen at the moment as Kasdorp comfortably makes the move on Bent Schupanek. He flashes his light, I'm quicker than you, and Bent Schupanek has no option but to oblige in the Corvette. No chance of fighting off the Aston Martin, which comfortably makes its way through, but no other takers yet so far. Down onto pit road, and this is going to be the question. This is where you start wondering, what's the right call? Was it the right call to go out there and attack the way that he did for Yuri Kasdorp? Because this is going to be a tough challenge now, a tough sell to get a victory because of just how close David Mrozek has been. If anything, the biggest help to the challenge of Yuri Kasdorp has been the championship leader Risto Capit, struggling on the tyres, struggling to get some pace in the mid part of the stint. And just like this, Peter Briliak still stuck, still can't find a way past the Mercedes, which is some fantastic grunt down those straights, and is very good with the higher cadence gear ratios that it has, which is able to give itself that advantage. And again, that Aston Martin doesn't pay favours as now Caruso decides it's time to dive down into the lane. A little bit better than one certain Yuri Kasdorp, but still a lap too early for the ideal halfway stage. And let's not forget as well that these drivers have had to put in an extra formation lap as well, so maybe that is just about the limit then. 58 laps for a one-stop strategy to come into play.
I reckon Caruso can just about do it. I think he knows that he can as well, but he's really got to keep half an eye, or a whole eye in fact, on the fuel gauge in the second half of the race. But that's a good point actually with the formation lap. Of course, doesn't use as much fuel as a normal racing lap, but it does use more fuel than say a standing start with no formation lap, as is obvious. But anyway, Caruso in the pits at present. He's going to come out probably around about 12th position in the order, behind where Ben Schupanek is currently. And Briliak there takes a look at Capit, goes for the switchback, slight contact on the tail end, just pushes him through the corner slightly, no harm, no foul, and that keeps Capit ahead for the time being. But Briliak certainly has so much more grip at this point in time. And I was talking about the fact that the Mercedes is front engine, but so is the Aston Martin.
Yeah, that Aston Martin is very much front engine, but the Aston Martin is lighter, is able to just carry that momentum very much easier than the Mercedes can at the moment. A lot sleeker of a design, the British-designed Aston Martin against the German-designed Mercedes, as they now start to try and make those pushes up towards Sunset Bend one more time as race leader David Mrozek dives down onto pit road then at the end of 58 minutes, which is right on that cusp as we were talking about. So on cue, the Audi decides it's time to get down onto pit road, get some tyres, get some fuel, as Enemed Simoncic decides to stay out a little bit more, as there is an overshot box, as Risto Capit decides it's time to come down in onto the lane. So Marocek will be losing time in this stop, missing the box ever so slightly. Expect Kazdorp to go through and retake the net race lead, but at what cost and at how much time advantage?
Yeah, Marocek in, Homer in, Galea has just exited the pits, Ben Stupanek in as well. So plenty of people in the pit stop at this time in the race. But David Marocek there did overshoot his pit box. He's going to lose, I'd estimate, probably 2 seconds in all of that. It wasn't a massive overshoot, but definitely better than not at all. And Capit got it slowed down absolutely perfectly. He's currently in the box now and will come out down the order. Still, we're waiting for some drivers to pit who have gone much further than I expected them to, such as Enemed Simoncic, Petr Brilyak, Jim Parisis, Herman Stocci is still running, and Moritz Mel. So the Porsches being very good on fuel consumption. The two Ricky Munsters Porsches still yet to stop, and those I believe are the only drivers in the on the lead lap who are yet to come down pit road.
Well, there goes Yuri Kazdorp through turn 2 as Marocek comes out of pit road and sees that Kazdorp is a fair ways away down the road. Risto Capit comes out of pit road. Where will he come out in all of this? Matteo Caruso is just a little bit too far down the road, and Capit will get out ahead heading through this section, which was always going to be expected, but still a good stop from Risto Capit to get out. The big issue, though, is Petr Brilyak, because through all of that battling that he was doing, being stuck behind Risto Capit, it has cost him. It's cost him 3 seconds to Enemed Simoncic, who has been given that license to go out there and attack as the halfway stage hits and pit stop window becomes vital at this point in time. No real chance to get that one going as race leader Enemed Simoncic dives into pit road then, followed swiftly by Petr Brilyak, followed by Jim Parisis, and surely Herman Stocci will take the same decision as well. So both edge cars and, of course, the Avid Chronic racing car dives down in. Simoncic perfect on the box as Jim Parisis also hits his marks quite nicely. Petr Brilyak will go a lot further down the lane looking for his marker on the asphalt braking zone, the concrete braking zone, which is always a little bit more tougher with American design tracks. But in on the lane, as also in comes Stocci, in comes Moritz Mailer, as Yuri Kazdorp now will make his way towards Sunset Bend to re-inherit the race lead.
Yeah, I forgot Moritz Mel when I was talking about. Oh no, I didn't. I forgot one of those guys anyway, but whatever the case, Yuri Kazdorp about to re-inherit that race lead, going past the 5 drivers currently in the pit stop, and he will go through right away. Jim Parisis and Petr Brilyak already moving.
Oh wow!
Brilyak will stay ahead of Parisis at this point in time.
Wow.
Kazdorp gets through, and I reckon somebody is about to jump Marocek here.
I'm shocked.
They both jumped him.
I am shocked with that call, actually, there by Edge Esports, because that is a big jump in terms of time. They've taken probably about 20 seconds less fuel than their rivals. Either that, or they've decided to go for a 2-tyre call or something along those lines, which puts them into a position. This is a tactical call then by Edge. They put themselves 2nd and 3rd on the road, but here's the question: can they make it to the end on fuel? And more critically than that, can they make it to the end on tyres?
It may just be that they refuel faster somehow. I'm not sure.
No.
I don't know if there's something to do with the Aston Martin that allows them to do that. I don't know.
I definitely think it isn't to do with fuel rate, because they'll be limited on that much. But
yeah, that is a huge jump.
It's a massive jump, and Parisis and Brilyak will be very happy about the way they've jumped. Marocek drops back to 4th, Enemed Simoncic in 5th, and Simoncic, let's not forget, was 3 seconds down the road. Now suddenly Enemed Simoncic finds himself a full, get this, 19 seconds behind Jim Parisis. They have surely gone for a tyre call here and looking to try and hold on tyres. I think they just didn't take tyres.
Maybe. It could well be that. It could well be that they think they can go to the end on two fuel sets, if that makes sense, but just one set of tyres. And that might end up working for them because they've got track position. And yeah, it might well be trickier for them to defend the their positions if they get attacked. But track position is very, very important in racing, arguably more important than outright pace or grip. And as a result, I think they put themselves in a very good position there if they can hold it, if their tyres don't get too badly worn, because if the tyres hit the cliff, and because these are slick tyres, they do definitely have a very defined cliff, then, well, they're going to be slaughtered in terms of pace.
Well, this is definitely a tyre call because Petr Briliak has just lost 0.7 of a second through the final sector to Yuri Kasdorp, so that just tells you how much of an aggressive call this is going to be. Keep another eye on the next sector for Petr Briliak. 5.2 seconds back still, though, so maybe he's just finding his feet at the moment. Davin Mrozek, though, isn't too far away. He finds himself there just a second back now on Jim Parisis there or thereabouts. And yes, another 0.8 of a second lost in the opening sector for Petr Briliak. That tells you something. It tells you they are on old tyres. They are now going to try and limp and nurse their vehicles home, hoping that those tyres do not go bang, do not go pop, do not go wallop, and they don't find themselves in any part of this autodrome here at the wonderful Sebring circuit. It's a bold edge call, but they still have themselves, crucially, a good amount of time, and the question becomes, what are they actually going to lose? At worst, Matteo Caruso, maybe Herman Stocci. Outside of that, I think if they're ahead of Rookie Monsters, I think it's a gamble that still pays off in the long run because they don't really lose much net on the road.
So, Jim Parisis third, Petr Briliak second as it stands. Briliak is definitely losing pace to Kasdorp, but then again, so is everyone at this point in the race pretty much. I think more important to them at the minute is Mrozek. Mrozek looks to me as if he's going to be right on top of them pretty much now. So Mrozek, I think, is going to be extremely difficult, if not impossible, to hold back for the time being. But they do, after that, have 17 seconds to Jerne Simoncic. So that's tricky. With 54 minutes to go in the race, that is definitely still. It's going to be close between the two, I think, because I know that the ACR drivers both took tyres. So yeah, that's going to be something to look out for. But as we always say, it's a bit of a cliche in racing, but a very true one. That it's one thing to catch someone and another thing to pass them, especially at a track as narrow, bumpy, and treacherous as Sebring is.
Well, I wonder if they were watching how good Risto Capit was at playing the defensive card, and maybe that's something that's playing into the mind of the likes of Petr Briliak and Jim Parisis. You can defend around this track. It is able to run very much defensive lines, and hopefully it makes it work. Maybe that's something just to keep in mind as Mrozek moves within a second for the first time and now drops within 0.6 now of Jim Parisis, taking out just chunks, handfuls of time through every single sector as they make their way to Tower Corner here at the right-hand side, the control Tower Corner, so to speak, as they now look to try and make that push over towards the Bishop's Corner and further forwards into further fields. But Davin Mrozek now tucked up all over Parisis with the draft. Dare you make a move here at the Le Mans section? The answer is going to be a very affirmative no, but you've got Sunset Bend coming up, which I think may be the place where Mrozek is thinking about trying to make that attack. I still put Avikronic as favourites. I still put Mrozek as the favourite to win this race, despite the fact that Yuri Kasdorp is pulling away at the front of the field. Kasdorp has only one option, one alternative. Run as fast as I can, as hard as I can, use all the fuel up, and then have to come in for that one more stop and start attacking my tyres, attacking my fuel as much as possible. Paris is taking the wide line through the final corner. Here's the chance to strike from Mrozek in the Audi.
So Mrozek with the run, with the slipstream, getting that windblock shield, taking a look to the outside line, trying to sweep around the outside of the Audi, the Aston Martin, sorry. And well, that's not going to work. He ends up going over the curb, two wheels on the grass. He got a lot closer than I expected him to, but still it appears that there's not as much grip on the outside as the drivers would expect. Flames spinning out the back of the Audi as he breaks through Christensen corner under the banner and up towards the hairpin again. He's definitely on the offensive here. He knows that Parisis is slower than him at this point in the race. and slower than him indeed he is. However, Paresis here has a good reason to defend from Rodjak, and that is of course Petr Brilyak, his teammate, who is a few seconds up the road.
Yes, and those few seconds up the road could be so vital in the long and the short. So we'll see how Brilyak is able to try and pull away from the likes of Jim Paresis, David Mrozek, and effectively use Paresis as that rear gunner. Let's not forget, Jim Paresis, very much in this championship fight as well, has been Mr. Consistency through the first 2 rounds. Always up there, always fighting, but here's the chance for Mrozek, who got a great run coming out of the tower corner. They'll be side by side through Bishop, and they'll go all the way to Ullman to try and make this work. Outside line now for Jim Paresis, always going to be difficult, but the move is done, and David Mrozek moves himself up into 3rd place without too many worries about making that move. Was forced to work hard for it, but no shocks, no surprises there by the way that Petr Brilyak was able to make that move. The big issue though is that it has cost 5 seconds to Enemed Simoncic, who is matching leader's pace at this point in time. So that's the only real concern that Mrozek has, is that he's allowing Enemed Simoncic back in, and all that defending means that Jim Paresis is just that little bit closer now to Enemed Simoncic out on track. Gap at the front has opened to 9 seconds. Mrozek now 13 behind Yuri Kazdorp. It does take a good 25 seconds to go down the lane, but you have to remember, Yuri Kazdorp will be on full attack mode, on fresh tyres and on fresh fuel if he comes down in for a second stop. I think Kazdorp's got no choice. I think Kazdorp's got to run for the hills.
He definitely appeared to pit too early. I think he was something like 7 or 8 minutes before the halfway point, and that is, yeah, I'd be surprised if he made it to the end on that, but, you know, I've been surprised in racing before, but yeah, you can tell he's on full attack mode at the minute. He's almost 10 seconds ahead of anyone else, and he certainly wasn't a few laps ago. So Kazdorp pushing, and certainly has a reason to do so. Meanwhile, I'm interested to see how quickly Mrozek catches Brilyak. They're currently separated by about 3.5 seconds as it stands, and that of course is important since Mrozek is, we presume, on much fresher tyres, and has just lost some time fighting with Paresis. And I expect that if Paresis hadn't been there, he'd have probably passed Brilyak by now.
Well, we'll see if that's the case, because it was just that case of an undercut working nicely for Yuri Kazdorp, had himself a fresh rubber and was able to go out there and attack that gap. 3.3 seconds at the moment between Mrozek and Brilyak, so they'll both try and get themselves as much as possible. Traffic, though, helping Petr Brilyak here, as I believe that will be Søndergaard. He'll be trying to get by at this point in time. It is, who's in 16th position, 1 lap down at the moment, moves out of the way, and effectively, now falls 2 laps down at the moment at the front of the field, as Martin Vindis pits in from 14th position for a second stop then of the day. And crucially enough, more time needed at the moment. Gap at this battle between 2nd and 3rd comes down to 3.1 seconds. So Mrozek not willing to attack this one, still has to be a little cautious about the fuel here, but bringing that gap down 0.2 of a second that last time by. Also keep an eye, gap between Paresis and Simoncic stands at just 12 seconds at the moment in this field, with Risto Capit now falling back in 6th position, and this is disaster for Capit. If Capit cannot capitalise on Brilyak and Paresis, he is dropping major points to Yuri Kazdorp, hoping that Kazdorp's pit stop puts Kazdorp behind himself.
You said capitalise.
I did. You're absolutely right.
Pun not intended. Anyway, so continuing on with the race, my apologies. Mrozek's gap now to Brilyak. Oh, it's actually just gone out a bit. That's interesting. It's now 3.1 seconds when it was down to almost 2.5. I don't expect that's going to last long, but maybe a slight mistake from Mrozek there. But anyway, Brilyak still holding fast. He's about 11 seconds back from Kazdorp as it stands. Kazdorp really pushing and really flying as well. Remember, well, we don't exactly know how much time he's going to need to come out in the lead of the race. I don't think he's quite going to do so. He'll just be hoping that he can fight his way back through the lead in the late stage of the race. That strategy is a very aggressive one, and it rarely tends to work, I'm afraid to say. but I've seen it work sometimes before, usually in rainy conditions, but whatever the case, Kazdorp going for it and setting fastest laps in this race so far. His fastest lap he set just a few laps ago, 1:59.979. That's almost qualifying pace there for Yuri Kazdorp, and I'm not sure if anyone's even gone into the well, I'm not sure if anyone else has even got within half a second of him in terms of lap times. Makes sense, but yeah, continues to push as the gap between Brilyak and Mrozek again stays relatively stagnant. That's interesting.
But it did crucially go down ever so slightly over the course of that last lap. That gap, 11.6 seconds behind the leader is Peter Brilyak, and Davin Mrozek, by my maths, is 2.6 seconds off now of Peter Brilyak. So Mrozek is able to close down that gap, and Jim Paresis is falling backwards now. That gap to Jurnej Simoncic for the first time is under 10 seconds, and Simoncic now with the bit between his teeth, matching pace with the leader here, Yuri Kazdorp, is trying to pull himself back into this race. Clearly this second half race pace and just able to go out there and attack in cooler conditions. This is where Simoncic has really got himself a fantastic opportunity to go out there, score some big points, get himself back in there in terms of the championship. And it's worth talking about this championship and where Jurnej Simoncic is at the moment. He's only 11 points behind Risto Kapit. He finds himself ahead. He's a point behind Jim Paresis right now. So any points that Simoncic can have, Simoncic could come out of this race as leader of the championship at the halfway stage. It's not out of the question, and he is trying to race hard to make sure that he can.
One of the top qualifiers in the series, Jurnej Simoncic, took pole position at Silverstone, took second place here today. And at Virginia, he took, I'll just double check my notes quickly, he took third place, so he's been in the top three. He's actually been in all three positions in the top three so far in qualifying. In terms of the races, not quite gone his way yet. He's got a fifth and a third, and he's currently on course for what looks like a fifth place, unless he can catch the slower Aston Martins in front. I think he certainly still has the potential to finish on the podium today. But yes, Simoncic, who is fighting for the lead of the championship with the drivers around him, with Paresis, with Kazdorp maybe, and with Kapit, of course. Certainly still in contention for this championship, especially if things happen to Kazdorp or Kapit later on in the season.
Gap comes down under 2 seconds between Brilyak and Mrozek in the battle for second and third out there on the road. So the worries continue now for Brilyak as Mrozek is starting to find his feet and match Yuri Kazdorp's pace at the front of the field, despite being a full 14 seconds down the road, as now this battle becomes so paramount in terms of the way that this race is going to go. 45 minutes and less on the clock now as they start thinking about gearing up for that challenge home, and Brilyak now under that pressure knows that Mrozek is clawing back that gap, and it's not much I think that the Edge Esports car can do. Brilyak, I think, may just be clawed in by Mrozek, and I have to wonder here, if you're Peter Brilyak, do you just let Mrozek through because you know he's faster?
Probably. I certainly wouldn't want to fight with him, since time is so important to Brilyak. Paresis fighting with Mrozek I could understand, because of course all the time that Mrozek is stuck behind Paresis is time that he's not attacking Brilyak. Although now he's through, now he's caught up to Brilyak almost. I don't see why Brilyak would continue to fight unless he feels that Mrozek's tyres are going to go off towards the end of the race, or he feels that Mrozek's going to struggle with fuel, in which case he may still be able to hold him off until the end. But it's certainly going to be difficult. Some would probably say too difficult, and well, we'll see what he does. I'll understand if he defends harder. If he doesn't, who spun?
Well, it was one of the back markers who's found himself around. It was Gordy Gunn, who spun right in front of Brilyak there, and Mrozek, avoiding action had to be taken there. So Gordy Gunn, very, very lucky there that he didn't clip Anybody else spun on his own in 14th position, isn't in a battle, so to speak, but that could have so very, very easily have turned sour for those in 2nd and 3rd at the moment in this race, as they now have to try and just get themselves back into the rhythm that would have spooked them ever so slightly, having to take to that inside line. Oh, there's a spinner. We weren't expecting that much.
Could have gone much worse, couldn't it? He was right on the racing line when you rejoined the track, and I tell you what, it's a good job that these cars have headlights, because otherwise they may not have seen him there. But yeah, good avoidance from those drivers. Didn't do anything silly, and Gordy Gunn as well. I think he held the brakes when he was spinning, which is an important thing to do, because otherwise you tend to be quite unpredictable. And yeah, it can sometimes total your front tyres, but that's much better than totaling your car. So Gordy Gunn there getting away relatively lightly from what was a pretty high-speed spin. He's about to be lapped by Jim Paresis in a short while, but still running in 14th position. Just needs to make sure that he picks up all of the points that he can down there. The Atlantic cars, I'm afraid, not having the best of days, currently running 14th and 15th positions, and haven't really been that competitive since the first round at Silverstone. And well, still continuing on their way. But at this point in time, still the attention has to stay on Rocek chasing down Broliak, because he's not actually gaining as quickly as I thought he would. He's dropped back again on that lap, goodness me.
Well, I think that Mrozek had to do more avoiding action than maybe Petr Briliak did, and then maybe it was that bravery factor that really did cost that gap, going back out to 2.4 seconds though between them, and that was not what Davin Mrozek was thinking about. I also caught an eye of Yuri Kazdorp going through turn 1, and you can tell he's pushing because he had to actually correct the car coming out of turn 1. He got a bit of grass there on that exit, which is always going to be something to keep an eye out on the longer that this race goes on. Kazdorp is pushing. He's got 13 seconds over Briliak, 16 over Mrozek. And crucially though, he's still only got 27 over Jurnej Simoncic, who is matching him lap for lap. Simoncic brings the gap down to Jim Paresis to just 6 seconds on the road, and all of a sudden, Jim Paresis is not looking forward. He's now looking backwards. He's 5 seconds away from Rojek. He's now 6 seconds ahead of Jurnej Simoncic, and Simoncic is faster than absolutely everyone in front of him.
Won't be looking in his mirrors just yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's looking at his what's the word, the timesheet. Definitely his the HUD display that shows him where he is relative to the other drivers quite a lot, because you can see Simoncic getting closer and closer, and that's a really unnerving situation for a driver, especially when you know that the car behind is faster. I say that with respect to Paresis, of course. Simoncic, while Simoncic and Paresis are both very fast drivers, you could say probably about equally as quick on good days. At the end of the day, a car on newer tyres is always going to be faster than a car on older tyres in this closely matched GT3 set. So Simoncic is catching and catching, as Mrozek again catches to within 2 seconds of Broliak. Gordy Gunn now makes his third pit stop, I think, after that spin. Probably had to, because his tyres would have been absolutely total. I think that might be a second pit stop actually. I was getting him confused with Vindus and Sundergaard. But anyway, making a stop, and we continue to watch the leaderboard.
We certainly do at the moment, as that gap again under 6 seconds now for Jurnej Simoncic, and it's now a 5.2 seconds though, 8/10 on that last lap. That's how hard he is pushing. Your top 10 though as follows. Yuri Kazdorp leads this one from Petr Briliak by 14.5 seconds. Davin Mrozek finds himself in third position for the Avid Chronic Racing team. Jim Paresis, the second of the Edge cars, Briliak the first and second, finds himself in fourth, with Jurnej Simoncic in fifth. The second of the Avid Chronic Racing Audis, with sixth place currently Risto Capit, the sole remaining AAA car out there after Yayovski's rage quit. Seventh position is Matteo Caruso, the second of the Singularity cars, Yuri Kazdorp being the first, with the first of the two Rookie Monsters cars in 8th and 9th. A great racing day for them racing all on their own at the moment. Herman Stocci ahead of Moritz Mailer, with Matthew Galea rounding out the top 10 at the moment, ahead of Itamar Yativ by good 12 seconds at the moment in the first of two BMWs, which are GT Omega RPM racing cars. So that is going to be very, very interesting for them as this one continues to go on. But Peter Briliak is who we focus on, and David Mrozek. Mrozek just sitting, waiting at the moment for the right time to strike back, but just at 1.8 seconds, just waiting to get within a second and to attack. I wonder if he's just thinking about sitting back, waiting for the right time to strike. Half an hour will come along in about 3 laps time, and then he can start planning about his road home, because he now finds himself 1.5 seconds back off of Peter Briliak, who has been very, very good, surprisingly good over the course of this stint. And I think David Mrozek has been playing that fuel save number. He wants to make sure that his number on fuel is safe before he goes out there, starts attacking against Peter Briliak and trying to wrestle potentially a net race win away.
It does make sense, and I said before that you do actually use up slightly less fuel running in someone's slipstream, so that may be what he's doing at this point in time. But yeah, I'm not sure that's what he's going to be thinking of. Not even sure if rFactor simulates that, but whatever the case, David Mrozek still sticking with Briliak, but not attacking him. The gap is 1.3 seconds through the last checkpoint, and yeah, I'd say that if he wasn't saving fuel, he would totally have blasted straight through by now. But yeah, it appears to be saving fuel more than I expected. Of course, Mrozek ran out of fuel on the last lap back at Virginia, lost several positions as he coasted across the line with absolutely, you know, not even running on fumes, running on nothing at all, running on gravity, as he almost floated across the start-finish line. And he will be doing everything in his power to stop that from happening again this time out. But that does mean it comes at the sacrifice, at the detriment of speed.
Well, you have to remember that David Mrozek pitted a lap before the hour mark. He very much came in at a very, very awkward time, and there are question marks over how far that David Mrozek can go over this stint. Maybe he does need to sit behind Peter Briliak, who's there and has gone for the massive undercut on what seemingly looks to me like a no-tyre strategy call. It may just be the big call that works out in the long run. Keep an eye out though, because Enemed Simoncic is still clawing that gap down, has still kept himself in that picture, and as they cross the line, that gap becomes itself just 3 seconds, 3.6 seconds out on track. And let's not forget, that gap at the start of the stint was a full 20 seconds here, and in the space of not even half an hour, Enemed Simoncic has clawed back 17 seconds on Jim Paresis. If that doesn't shout, I am looking to be a champion, a GT3 master, I don't know what does from Enemed Simoncic.
He is pushing. I'm just gonna have a look at his lap times quickly. Ooh, okay, well he's still not even. Never mind, last few laps have not been his best. I thought that they might be, but of course at this point, when you've used up some of your tyres and you're starting to think about fuel saving, you're obviously not quite as quick as you would be, although Simoncic definitely gaining on Paresis. Just saw a bit of a movement for Mrozek as well, not too big, but had a big wiggle while trying to pass Jonas Sundergaard, who's now 3 laps down. No fault of Jonas's at all, it's just that Mrozek got over the grass, gave him more room than otherwise he would probably need to, and did well to get the car slowed up in time, but yeah, needs to make sure he doesn't do that too often. Certainly would have raised his heart rate a bit. He's now got a little bit more slipstream from Peter Briliak, although still Briliak has a big advantage over him at this point in the race. And for Mrozek, he's really playing a waiting game, just like the kind that Simoncic appears not to be playing at this point in time.
Well, it is worth noting here that we would go to other battles if there were any out on track, but quite simply put, there are none at this point in time. Everyone has spread themselves out quite nicely over the course of this race. This is the big important battle out on track. That gap still 1.4 seconds between Briliak and Mrozek. and Yernej Szymancic, only a tenth off of Yuri Kazdorp that last time by, brings that gap down under 3 seconds here to Jim Paresis, and this is worrying not just for Jim Paresis, but everyone in front of him, both Mrożek and Bryliak, because Yernej Szymancic has brought the gap down to Davin Mrożek down to just 9 seconds on the road. Has not only done that, but the gap to Peter Bryliak is now 11 seconds, and Szymancic is consistently taking full, massive tenths of a second, if not more, as Paresis flashes the lights at Søndergaard in front to say, come on, get out of the way. I know what I'm battling against, and that is that really scary Avid Chronic Racing Audi behind me.
Søndergaard's done a really good job of getting out of the way of traffic behind so far today. He hasn't really gotten anyone's way. There was that hairy movement with Itamar Yativ earlier on, but you have to say that wasn't Søndergaard's fault. So anyway, hopefully he doesn't let me down now I've said that, but anyway, Jim Paresis is flashing his lights at him. Oh, no. I think I cursed it all that. I think I cursed it. Søndergaard off the road, and Jim Paresis there is not going to be happy with him.
Well, Jim Paresis was there on that inside. He was aggressive down to the inside on Jonas Søndergaard. And this is the issue that Jim Paresis has. He knows that he has to go out there and aggressively overtake this traffic at a part of the circuit where it is not natural to let vehicles through, and that is the run from Cunningham Corner all the way over to the Tower section. Not only is that a very difficult point to let cars through, it is also incredibly difficult in the fact that Jim Paresis had to make a clutch decision to go down to that inside, and I think he left it ever so slightly too late and was trying to indicate, I need to go through now, whether you like it or not. He's more worried about what's behind him in terms of this race, and let's not forget that that gap and that contact means the gap has now cut in half over this lap, gap down to 1.4 seconds. Jim Paresis, I think, got a bit greedy. If he waited after the corner, he would have got through the traffic without any problems at all. I expect the stewards to look at that, because Søndergaard, I don't know where you're supposed to go apart from brake hard on the inside. It is the responsibility of the lap traffic to get out of the way, but I think he was waiting to do it safely, which I don't blame him for.
Well, yeah, but at the same time, I think Paresis could have done more to avoid that, but also Søndergaard, if I was him, I'd have gone slowly into the corner on the right-hand side, which is the inside. There was definitely room and time to do that, and I don't think he would have lost much time at all, especially since he is now making his 4th pit stop. So at this point in time, I really think he should have been a bit more generous with the leaders. But anyway, it is what it is, and we continue on our way. Wait for word from the stewards if we're going to get it. We've now got David Mrożek trying to lap Søndergaard's teammate Kurt Homer, flashing his lights at him as well, as Mrożek continues to try to chase down Bryliak. Oh, and that's going to be a bit close, although they get through that without incident.
But look how much time Mrożek has actually lost in that situation. He flashes the light to say thank you very much, but ultimately Davin Mrożek's gap was at 1.4 seconds. It's now all of a sudden back to 3 seconds again, and that is what is hurting Davin Mrożek. He's not in a position to go out there and attack because he has to be very, very mindful of the fuel, and even with Peter Bryliak being 20 seconds quicker on his stop and probably didn't take tyres, I think we're in a position where Mrożek can't attack Peter Bryliak. And Bryliak has actually played this one rather astutely in this situation. Saw Mrożek came in early. Bryliak's fine on the fuel. Mrożek isn't. Kazdorp isn't. Bryliak's favourite now all of a sudden to win this race.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you there. I think he is in a wonderful position there. Kazdorp's going to be tight in terms of time and fuel. That is, if he tries to go to the end, and I think it's probably almost impossible at this stage, especially since he's pushed so hard. So Yuri Kazdorp, I expect, will be making another pit stop. Although Bryliak, Mrożek, Paresis, those guys, they've all proved me wrong by doing a one-stop strategy. Although then again, they haven't proved me wrong until they finish the race. It may well be that they will end up having to make a splash and dash towards the end of the race, like we've seen people doing in the previous races of the season, and Kazdorp comes through to win anyway. But whatever the case, they're still running well at this point in time. and Paresis is now under heavy attack from Enemed Simonchurch.
And Simonchich knows that he's got to get by quickly and start attacking Mroziek and Briliak. He has the pace. He's been consistently around 26, 27 seconds off of the race lead, and that has been his key factor. He's seen Briliak lose 14 seconds to Yuri Kazdorp coming out of the stops. He, on the other hand, has lost maybe 1 second. He's been 13 seconds quicker over this stint, and he's got to get past Paresis quickly, and Paresis will be on full defense mode for his teammate Peter Briliak, who could pick up a race victory on debut in the GT3 Masters here, fueled by Enemed. But here is Jim Paresis under pressure. Where do you make the move if you're Enemed Simonchich? Defending hard to the inside goes the Edge Esports driver. Now, can the move be done around the outside? It's the corner of 1004 lines, and I think this may just be absolutely magical, and it is. How many times do you see a move around the outside of Sunset Bend? That's my first, and I've seen many Sebring races. Great move from Simonchich, and part of the season so far.
Just shows you how much more grip he has than Briliak at this point in the race. But yeah, fantastic attacking move there from Simonchich. Really didn't waste any time behind Jim Paresis or much at all. He caught up to him, made one attempt, and
He's stuck.
Yeah, totally. It's like scoring a goal on your first attempt, and Enemed Simonchich gets through and now starts to possibly chase down David Mroziek. I think that's I'm not sure that's going to be entirely possible. They've even got some traffic in between them, although if he can, he will, and we'll see what happens between those.
And this is the next question. How hard did Enemed Simonchich push to get to Jim Paresis? Because if he's pushing too hard, and let's not forget, he's got 2 laps on his teammate David Mroziek here in terms of fuel, is he pushing to the extent of using 2 extra laps of fuel to get himself into a position to try and win this race? I wouldn't put it past Enemed Simonchich to try and push with everything that he's got, and he definitely didn't overfuel the car because he got out ahead of Risto Capit, who was very much struggling over the course of the stint. But I think we're in this position where it is now time to see who is going to go out there, who is going to be the aggressor, who is going to go and win these sorts of races, because we know that Kazdorp most likely has to come down in again and make another stop. We know that Briliak's okay, we know that Mroziek is marginal if not worse, and we know that now Enemed Simonchich is pushing with everything that he's got. This is a clutch race which is going to come together in the next 24 minutes worth of racing.
Kazdorp was steering more left than right there through Sunset Bend that last time round, although made it work, made it stick, and it just shows how much car control he's got as he accelerates away in what is for now the lead of the race. Questionable as to where he's going to be at the end. It feels weird to say that about someone who's got a 17.5 second lead, but anyway, it's going to be an exciting finish to this race, definitely, and still I'd say it's unpredictable. You know, will Mroziek be able to put the power down towards the end? Will Briliak be able to hold off everyone behind? Will Kazdorp potentially even be able to go for the one stop? My answer is probably no. But if he doesn't, what will he be able to do with the strategy that he's on? Sun's coming up again, goodness me.
That was quick. We've only been here an hour and we've already gone through an entire night cycle. So I don't know what happens here in Florida, but it seems that the sun rises incredibly quickly here for us racing here on rFactor 2. Oh, it must be, absolutely. But for the time being anyway, it is Enemed Simonchich who is the big mover and shaker in this field, trying to get back to teammate David Mroziek. Mroziek himself trying to stay in contact with Peter Briliak, who he himself is 2.4 seconds down the road from Yuri Kazdorp, who gets a huge slide on, heading himself through the Ullman corner and onto, or the Le Mans corner and onto the Ullman straight for his 48th time in, or sorry, his 47th time in this race. So a big challenge here as these drivers look to go through. Drivers that we haven't really talked about so far. Matteo Caruso, yes, very much in 7th position, all on his own, 6 seconds back of Risto Capit, and not really in a position to really close down that gap, but he did take half a second out over that last sector. Maybe Caruso has something to say about Capit, who very much in 6th place will lose the championship lead if things stay like this.
So, towards the end of another lap of racing, Kazdorp followed by Brylyak, and then Mrozek separated from Brylyak by 2.6 seconds. That gap has been very, very stationary for a long time now, and it looks as if it may stay that way at least until the last probably the last 10 minutes of the race, when drivers start to figure out exactly how many laps are left, how much fuel they still need to conserve, or if they've conserved too much and they can push till the end. That's quite a nice feeling, actually, when you realise that you've got enough fuel to the end and you can stop conserving for the time being, and just push. Although it does mean you've probably cost yourself time by over conserving. Whatever the case, continuing on their way, just making sure that they keep the car within the lines. Of course, another thing is that back markers and traffic are coming into play at this point in the race as well. We've seen them shaking up the order a little bit so far, although luckily remaining pretty much clean. And we've got, well, Yuri Kazdorp is just about to lap Gordy Gunn for the second time in a few corners time. Hopefully Gunn will see him coming through. Haven't seen Gunn causing any issues for leading runners so far today.
Apart from that one spin.
Apart from that one spin, yeah. Last time I said that, it messed everything up anyway, so we'll see what happens.
Well, Yuri Kazdorp, it's any point from now, with 20 minutes to go in this race, that he could not be safe. It's a questionable run to the end. He came in 4 laps earlier than the benchmark. If he has somehow been able to save fuel, then it's magical from Kazdorp. I expect him to come down in the next 3 laps or so, maybe a little bit later. When he comes down, he'll only need to put in 15 minutes worth of fuel, go out there and really attack his Aston Martin. Peter Brylyak there in second position. That gap extends now. It's 3 seconds at the front for him in second and third. Mrozek is not closing the gap. He is having to save that fuel. Enemed Simončić, in comparison, is only, and get this, 6.7 seconds back of Mrozek. He's not closing quick enough, though, to get to Mrozek by the end of this race. And there's a spinner in the background as well. It's one of the lap traffic vehicles. Didn't quite catch who that was. It is Søndergaard, and he is stuck on the outside. So I wonder if he's had himself maybe a big technical issue there, as he actually reverses it and looks to get back off to racing once again. Ooh. So Søndergaard, that is a really surprising place to have an incident and just be parked. I think his day may just be done.
I think he had heavy damage already. Looking at his steering, actually no, that looks like very laggy steering inputs. That doesn't look like damage. I reckon that there's definitely been a big
outward suspension
issue. Well, yeah, well, it says that because he tagged the wall, so I expect it registered suspension damage and thinks that's his reason for disconnecting. Although I expect it's probably something to do with connection issues. I don't think that was any fault of Jonas Søndergaard's there. It's a big shame, actually, because although he didn't have the pace of his competitors, he was still running despite all of the issues that he's had so far. He was still giving it his best shot. It's a shame to see him retire. He's actually the first retirement in over an hour in this race. So it's great to see that this race has been so clean, but a shame for Søndergaard to have made it so fast in his first race in the series, and I believe first race with World Pro Racing as a whole, to retire now.
Well, it is a shame, but it is one that had to be, so to speak. But still, it is Yuri Kazdorp who has the lead, with Peter Brylyak second and Davin Mrozek in third position. Traffic now starting to become heavy for challengers like Enemed Simončić. He's managing to try and work away around one of the Corvettes, the only remaining Corvette now, that being Ben Szczepanik, and comfortably getting around the 12th place position vehicle and making a way through. So we'll see how this next battle turns in for Simončić. That gap really did open over that last lap. I wonder if he's used all the tyre life up, because it has stayed at 7 seconds now, and Simončić, I think, is looking behind. I've got past Jim Parisis, but I think he's just run out of tyre tread to catch Brylyak, to catch Mrozek. This now becomes a question of Peter Brylyak. Is the tyres going to hold on for him? Is the fuel going to hold on for him? Because if he has, then I tout this as one of the great rFactor 2 moves that will completely shake up any other 2-hour races that come up later on in the season. Hint, hint, Le Mans is coming up as well. So I think Peter Brylyak here may have just set a precedent here if he can hold on for the last remaining 17 minutes of this race, which Kasdorp leads.
I expect that G Sports want him back. What do you think?
Yes.
Of course, Petter also races for G Sports in GPWC, although that series is now finished for the year. He did very well in that series this year. I believe he came 4th overall in the championship, despite missing some races. Got a couple of wins in that as well, and continues to race in a strong position so far today. I wonder whether now his GPWC campaign for the year is over, he'll make it in for the rest of the season, replacing Daniel Kiss, another driver who I think has raced for GPWC in the past, and was also holding that seat before. And with all due respect to Daniel Kiss, who himself is probably a much better racing driver than I'd ever be, Petr Brilyak, obviously just more comfortable and ultimately quicker in that car, and currently on course for what looks like at least a 2nd place in this race, probably even a victory as it stands.
Well, Davin Mrozek is now heavily fuel saving. He's now dropped back the gap 3.6 seconds between the pair of them, if not more, 3.7. The gap comes down for Enemed Sivancic. That gap now becomes 5.2 on the road. So, 6.2 on the road for Enemed Sivancic. He's able to close down that gap by 0.8 of a second. That last run through, and that suddenly becomes a little bit worrying in terms of this. Other battles as Risto Capit runs wide is Capit versus Caruso, as Risto Capit now still only 4.9 seconds clear of Caruso, and a bit less now after running wide at turn 1, as well as the battle 10th and 11th in the last battle of those on the leading lap. Galea being caught by Itamar Yativ, the 2 teammates at RPM, are looking like they're going to have a scrap for the final spot inside of the top 10, and it looks like that is 3.2 seconds now between those. Itamar Yativ has closed 7 seconds over the course of this stint.
7 seconds, that's quite something, but indeed he has, aiming for that top 10 position in the race so far, and his teammate currently holds that position, Matthew Galea, in P10 as it stands through Sunset Bend, which we've just seen the sun rise, so I suppose whatever. I don't know where I was going with that, but anyway, Sunset Bend, known as Sunset Bend, since when the sun sets, the sun tends to shine right in your eyes through there, and it's very, very annoying. Meanwhile, Matthew Galea has just had a little off through turn 1, keeps it under control, and I expect he won't lose any more than 0.3 of a second from that. Although, of course, because we have such a short day and night cycle here, when the sun sets or comes up, the drivers don't have to worry about the sun shining in the rays that much, because it's only at that level for a matter of seconds, maybe 2 corners or so, and then you have the clear visibility of full daytime or full nighttime.
That is very, very true, but once again, it is another case of, well, what is going on? Yuri Kasdorp stays out another lap, and it's almost a case of looking at the watch, looking at the fuel tank gauge, looking at every parameter that we can and say, well, Yuri Kasdorp has been in complete control of this field. He did pit early, he did have to pit with a full tank of fuel. The same in Aston Martin terms as the Aston Martin behind of Petr Brilyak, the same Aston Martin as Jim Paresis, but they pitted a full 4 laps later. So now Yuri Kasdorp's thinking, well, I'm sure that I haven't been saving fuel that much, I'm sure that I can't get to the end, but when they next cross the line, it will be a case of 7-8 laps to go here at this Sebring circuit. And the question becomes for Yuri Kasdorp, if I do pit, and I will potentially have to pit, where do I come out? And I reckon that this is going to be tight. I reckon he may come out around Risto Capit, Matteo Caruso. Where he comes out is going to be the key. I don't think he'll need 1 million tons of fuel, so I'm not expecting him to be behind Herman Stocci if he does pit. But I reckon 6th or 7th, which is not what Yuri Kasdorp wants for a race that he has dominated from lights to checker at this point.
Totally. He's 20 seconds
In
in
he
the lead
comes.
of the... Oh, yeah, okay. Well, he's 20 seconds in the lead of the race, but that is about to come down. So Yuri Kasdorp's massive lead is about to be taken away from him, unfortunately, just as it was last time out at VAR, but this time in different circumstances. This appears a bit more strategical. Still a mistake nonetheless, though, I'd say. With all due respect to Kasdorp, he's one of the fastest drivers in the series, if not the fastest. Exits pits now. Petr Briliak takes the lead of the race in the other Aston Martin. Through goes David Mrozek to second. Jurnej Simončić is going to take P3 there, and I reckon that it's going to be P4 for Yuri Kasdorp.
It is, and that's very, very crucial ahead of Jim Paresis, so definitely able to save quite a fair bit of fuel, and that actually puts him in range to go out there to attack maybe one certain Jurnej Simončić. So it's not over and done with Kasdorp. The damage not as bad as he thought it was going to be, not as bad as I thought it was going to be in terms of how much fuel he needed to put on board. It now gives Petr Briliak the lead, the gap 3.1 seconds from a David Mrozek, who is having to save fuel pretty hard at this stage. Jurnej Simončić is only 5 seconds back of that, and Mrozek now needs to get the hammer down, because with 11 minutes to go, that being 6 laps at this point, this has to be a very, very big challenge, and it needs to be about half a second a lap now for Mrozek to come back and win this race. It needs to be a second a lap for Jurnej Simončić, and at this point, I don't see either happening right now. Petr Briliak just needs to survive the gauntlet here to win this race outright, which he has done through nuance and strategy, never once looking like he was the quickest man in the field, knowing at one point after the opening lap he was down in 8th place. He may come back and win all of it.
It's a brilliant drive from Petr Briliak so far, especially in terms of strategy. And Yuri Kasdorp's going to be pretty annoyed at, possibly annoyed at himself for that as well. But anyway, drops to 4th position. Lucky he didn't drop any further. It certainly wasn't between Capitan and Caruso. It was a relatively quick pit stop as a result of only taking a few extra litres of fuel. And I would be surprised actually if he didn't set fastest lap of the race in the remaining few laps of this race. He probably hasn't taken new tyres, but he is going to be properly fired up for this, and he knows that it's now or never in terms of going for the podium.
Well, he's 3.5 seconds back, and he's got 5 laps to try and find those 3.5 seconds. So this is a tough challenge for Yuri Kasdorp, and you can see how hard he's pushing. He's all over the grass, coming out of turn 1, the kink of 2, into turn number 3, and all of a sudden it seems like this race ends up being one which does close in for quite a few drivers, but a few others not really in the same place. Yativ and Galea, though, they find themselves together late on. The two teammates battling for the final spot inside the top 10. The last 2 vehicles on the leading lap at the moment, and these two will probably want to have the cleanest overtakes possible, knowing that they're 2 teammates, knowing there's not much in it for the pair of them to change between 10th and 11th, maybe fighting just for a championship point.
Yeah, I'm also looking at the fight between Holmer and Zupanek for 12th place. Of course, points do go down to 15th place in this series rather than just 10th. So as a result, Zupanek and Holmer are both fighting for points here. They're both a lap down, but still have found themselves right together on the road in the late stages. Holmer's definitely appeared more strong in the second part of the race than he did in the first part. Sorry?
Here's the change. Itamar Yativ moving through then, down the inside, and comfortably taking the position away from Matthew Galea. That's the change of position. Also, Caitlin, keep an eye out on Ben Zupanek, because despite Cor Holmer being there, Cor Holmer is ahead on the road because of the 5-second penalty that Ben Zupanek has.
You're right. Yeah, good memory. Jolly good.
Well, that is all to be decided at this point in time. Jurnej Simončić in 3rd, Yuri Kasdorp there in 4th. Both of them closing down on the race leader, but they are running out of time as Petr Briliak now finds himself with only a handful of laps to go here in this race. His gap 3 seconds over David Mrozek, and he has managed that gap absolutely fantastically from the man who has needed to save fuel incredibly hard over this second stint, and this has been what has cost him the race. The fact that he couldn't go as long as, say, his rivals could. The likes of, say, Jurnej Simončić's teammate, the likes of Jim Paresis, and maybe that was the big difference maker in this one for David Mrozek as this race continues. Simončić just a bridge too far, caught out by the strategy, went for the bold call, did those in front, and ultimately was not able to claw that gap down, and that has been the big key in terms of how this race has panned out. Capit there in 6th has struggled on tyres all day. Caruso there in 7th. But it's also worth talking about this as well. The way things stand, Singularity take the lead of the team's championship.
That's interesting. Yeah, of course. I believe that the prize money goes to the team rather than the drivers to be split out there. So as a result, you could argue that the team's championship is more important than the drivers' championship. And Singularity have done a fantastic job here. They've got a very, very competitive, very strong driver lineup in Yuri Kazdorp and Matteo Caruso. Oh, contact! That's Homer and Capit. Yeah, Capit tried to lap Homer as they were fighting, as he was fighting with Jupanek, and okay, well, I'm not going to say anything about that, but that could have been a lot worse than it ended up being. I thought they were going to go plying off the road, and surely these guys now need to get out of the way of Capit. I know that they're fighting for position and they don't want to give up too much time, but they're holding him up. And yeah, that's probably not going to change much in terms of the race. But still, rules are rules. Blue flags are blue flags. Get out of the way, mate.
Yeah, very much so. Get out of the way. They are entitled to have their battle, but at what cost here for Risto Capit, who has to make a legitimate move to get around? And this has all brought back in Matteo Caruso and more points potentially in this team's championship. So Capit will make the lunge down the inside of the McLaren there of Cor Holmer. He's able to get that move done. Shupanek will be next in terms of that one, as I've just seen Yuri Kazdorp just go straight off the road, trying to push hard and trying to get something out of it with just 5 minutes remaining on the clock. 3 laps to go for Peter Briliak to try and win this race and hold off Davin Mrozek, and he's pulling away now. 3.6 seconds. The fuel situation is dire for Mrozek at the moment, and he's probably looking behind and thinking, well, Enemed Simoncic is fighting for the championship. I'm a lot further back, 24 points off the lead to Enemed Simoncic is, 11 points back? I think it might be best in this situation for Mrozek, if he is struggling on the fuel, to change the positions very late in the day so that not only Simoncic goes through, but Yuri Kazdorp can't catch.
And what you were talking about in terms of the championship as well, Singularity taking it from AAA, is exactly why I went on that little rant earlier about Yuyovsky retiring and it being pretty childish, actually, because I can guarantee that if he had continued in the race, he would be running at least probably even in the top 5 by now, despite the penalty, and that would put AAA back in the lead of the championship. So you know, he could be costing the team real money here, and yeah, you have to say that he really shouldn't have retired when he did. But anyway, it certainly swung the championship. Singularity looks set to take the lead if our calculations are correct. Of course, so all the results will be unofficial at the end of the round until they are declared official. But for the time being, Petr Briliak looks set to win the race. He's 3.8 seconds ahead of David Mrozek, and Enemed Simoncic is holding on to 3rd place for the time being.
Oh, lap traffic, go careful, and Briliak negotiates it. 3 minutes to go, and that was not part of the plan there, as I believe that was going to be Jordy Gunn just having a big moment in front coming out of turn 3. And, well, very lucky for Peter Briliak, he's able to save himself just for the time being. So, crisis averted there in that situation. I believe you've just seen it, Caitlin. That could have been the end of Peter Briliak at the worst time in the race.
It could. Gordy Gunn making a slight mistake, but luckily getting out of the way. Second time that he's almost spun in front of Briliak. But anyway, the thing I was saying about is the fact that Cor Holmer's just made another pit stop, so he didn't quite make it to the end, and that is a big relief for Ben Shupanek, because now he doesn't have Holmer on his tail, and he's not going to lose that place due to his penalty. Holmer keeps 13th position. Bindis is a little way back. They may end up fighting on the last lap of the race if Holmer makes a mistake. I don't think that they will, but whatever the case, that's a place gained for Ben Shupanek in the effective order.
It is a place gain for Ben Schupanek effectively, and he'll be happy as Enemed Simoncic has given everything he possibly can. He's brought the gap to the race lead down to 6 seconds, but he is out of time. But crucially, he's got the gap down to 1.7 seconds to his teammate Davin Mrozek, and they could be in a position to change places on the final lap. Won't affect them too much, but will really help Enemed Simoncic if he can gain a position on Yuri Kanstorp, give himself a couple more points in terms of the championship. The white flag comes out here in Florida at Sebring for Peter Briliak on debut as he makes his way through turn number 1. He has been absolutely sensational in terms of strategy here today. Not often that you hear that style of racing become the big way to win, but in a 2-hour race, sometimes that's got to be the way that you do it. It was a race dominated once again for the 3rd straight race by Yuri Kazdorp, who is by far and away the quickest driver in this field in these vehicles. But again, Yuri Kazdorp, be it by mistake, be it by fuel miscalculation, finds himself off of the podium for the 2nd straight race. But now the question becomes, will Mrozek and Simoncic change positions as Simoncic goes wide through turn number 7 down at the hairpin?
Briliak's
That's not going to be helpful as
sorry.
here is Briliak trying to get past both of the GT Omega cars and get so without any worries at all. So he'll be happy and he will not be challenged between now and the end of this race as he looks to try and find himself very, very happily towards the end. Is Mrozek still fine though on his fuel? He's still very, very marginal on that gap. Still 1.6 seconds at the moment, which he can be very happy. Schupanek out of this race very late on. He's had an accident on the final lap, but we'll get to that after racing has finished. But for the time being, it is Peter Briliak who has been absolutely fantastic over the course of this one. He rounds himself through the Le Mans corner and hits the Ullman straight for the final time. He knows what he needs. He knew what he wanted. Edge Esports needed a big result coming into Sebring, and by golly, by gosh, they've gone and got that. The line of 1004 is here at Sunset Bend because Peter Briliak on debut will take victory here in the GT3 Masters at the wonderful circuit of Sebring. He does so absolutely fantastically. Mrozek will take 2nd position. It will be 3rd for Enemed Simoncic. What could have been for Yuri Kazdorp, who dominated this race and can only get 4th place. Jim Paresis will find a top 5 coming out of it. And crucially, the championship leader, Risto Capit, struggles, only manages 6th place. And this championship has just been blown wide open heading to Imola.
Are we sure that Briliak didn't take tyres? Because he just had so much control towards the end of the race there. I'm actually not sure that he didn't take tyres and all of that, but if he didn't, it was an inspired decision and it ended up working very, very well for him. A fantastic victory from Peter Briliak. David Mrozek as well did a great job in 2nd. Simoncic almost caught him towards the end there. Incidentally, Schupanek's accident on the final lap, pretty embarrassing one. Just locked up and went into the barrier at Sunset Bend, and that was the end of the day for him. Will came off the car, so there was no continuing for him. He will still claim 14th position because he was a lap ahead of Gordy Gunn, so 14th goes the way of Ben Schupanek. But as the cars continue to stream across the line, we're just waiting for Martin Vinders, who crossed the line 13th and a lap down. And that's the lot for today. Fantastic victory for Peter Briliak.
Confirmation of results. Peter Briliak wins in 2 hours 47 seconds and his margin of victory 4.6 over David Mrozek. It may have been a no tyre call for Peter Briliak, but the big key factor has been that David Mrozek had to save fuel hard during that 2nd stint. He was short. He was able to get to the line ahead of Enemed Simoncic, who was 20 seconds back of Peter Briliak coming into that final stint, but crucially only 5 seconds back come the end of the race. Yuri Kazdorp gets 4th position after having to take a 2nd stop, with 5th place going to Jim Paresis, who once again gets a consistent points haul. 6th position goes to Risto Capit then, who struggles and blows the championship wide open with a round which, quite frankly, he wish he'll have back and wish he had a bit more grip at that he could be able to extract, with Matteo Caruso in 7th and Herman Stocci in 8th place, which he can be very happy with. Moritz Mailer gets 9th and Itamar Yativ rounds the top 10.
11th place in the end was Matthew Galea fighting with Yativ right until the end. Homer ended up retaking 12th position after Schupanek's accident. Martin Vindis was in 13th position. Ben Schupanek had an accident but will still be classified in 14th. And then Gordy Grom was the last finisher in 15th position. And the retirements were Yunus Sondergaard due to what we believe was a technical issue. Erhan Yuyovsky due to a rage quit that I'm not a fan of. Ibrahim El Mubarak retired to the pits in the early stages, as did Zoltan Shuti. So that's a lot. Those are the 19 drivers that started the race. We had 14 finishers, although 15 were classified, and 9 in the end finished on the lead lap of the race.
Yes, and 9 very much did at this point in time. So what we're going to do that are going on at the moment. So we'll just keep an eye out on everything that's going on. We're going to bring in to the conversation, though, Peter Briliak first and foremost. Peter, the first question becomes, is it a no tyre call?
What do you mean by that?
In the sense that you didn't take all 4 tyres at the stop.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't sure before the race, and since I was driving behind slower people most of the time, I could save my tires, and yeah, I decided like after 20 laps that I wouldn't change the tires.
Well, a decision not to change the tyres gave you a really good position come the end of the race. You found yourself looking at the time falling away to Yuri Kazdorp, who came in a little bit earlier. For you, was it a case of just trying to manage the gaps behind you? You knew that Morozek behind you was always going to be close, but were you really expecting not as much of a challenge as you did, seeing the fact that Morozek did have to fuel save hard in that second stint?
I really wasn't sure what everyone was doing. I tried in the second stint new tires, and they were quick for about 10 laps, and then they were marginally faster to the end. So, it was always kind of a guessing game, but all I was concentrating on was, making sure that I make it with the fuel. So first stint I saved a lot, and that made my pit stop shorter, for example. And then second stint, I had to just do the best pace I could. I knew once they got to me, like I would fight, but I wouldn't lose my head over it. So, and it worked out in the end.
It's a crucial victory for Edge. It's a victory on debut for you. Is this a series you're looking to come back in and racing a little bit more strongly over the next couple of rounds? And are you looking at this maybe as a way to sort of get your eye in as you've been hopping around from series to series a little bit?
Yeah, that's the plan. I think I will finish this series to the end. So we'll see what happens.
Well, we see what happens, but before we let you go, Peter, shouts out sponsors. Who gets it done for you after a big race victory here at Sebring?
Well, thanks to Sky Limit Events and also SimTag for sponsoring us. Yeah, that's it.
Well, Peter Briliak gets a fantastic race victory come the end. Caitlin Penny standing by with the driver who finished in second position, and that was Avid Chronic Racing's David Morozek.
So, David, wonderful race from you there. A little bit of fuel saving going on towards the end, but you are surely very happy for that P2 after the disappointment of VAR. How did it go from your point of view?
Hi. Well, first, big congratulations to Petar. I mean, during the first stint, I thought that the Yuri is the person I am fighting with, and I knew that he's gonna do 2-stopper, so I thought after the second stop that, well, there is a big chance for me to win the race, but well, I didn't expect Petar to be so quick on the worn tires, so yeah, and also I had to save really like a lot of fuel during the second stint, so there was no chance to gain on him.
Then again, oh sorry, yeah. Go ahead. Sorry for interrupting that. I was going to say, then again, you were extremely. You mentioned the word quick, and quick indeed you were, taking pole position, followed by that second position. But yeah, pole in qualifying. 1-2, you and your teammate. I take it you just had your setup exactly to your lighting, your liking. Sorry, would I be right to say that?
Yeah, I mean that was a big surprise because usually I'm not that quick in the qualifying, but in this series it's quite strange because seems like we have a great pace in the qualifying, but then in the race there are other guys who just are a little bit quicker. But yeah, that's the thing we have to work on in the next races.
Whatever the case, you held on to it wonderfully and held off your teammates in the end to finish P2. But yeah, do you also have shout outs and people you want to thank for your performance?
Yeah, I mean mostly Erne because he's done the setup for the race. Yeah, that's the person I want to thank.
Perfect. Well, I'm going to hand back over to Jake, who's got the third place driver. But yeah, thank you for the interview, David. On to Yane Simonchurch.
Yes, very much so. And from one driver who's been thanked to that driver himself. So, Yene, let's talk about what happened in the early stages. You get dropped back to 5th position. You have to fight hard. And ultimately, you get yourself stuck behind one very, very resilient championship leader, Risto Capit. Just how difficult is it to pass a driver like him, knowing that he's using all of the road and using all of his skill available?
Yeah, it's very hard when he has more top speed without the slipstream than I have in the slipstream. But yeah, no, somehow, I mean, I had no plan. I just tried everything, and in the end, it just worked. In the process, I almost put Peter into the wall. I checked the replay, so I'm sorry for that. It was night, and without bigger field of view, it's almost impossible to see what's going on behind when you're battling the car in front. But yeah, I'm massively disappointed by what Erhan did there. Like firstly pushing me off the track completely, and then like stopping in the middle of a corner to retire. So yeah, I didn't have nice experience with him in this round. Yeah, still a bit confused by Peter's pace. I thought like he did not get the ballast or something because he pulled out 25 seconds gap to Jim. So I don't know what happened there. But yeah, I mean, we had to prepare for like in the VEC too, so there was just no time to test different like strategies. So yeah, P2, P3, I think we scored the most of any team. So I guess that's nice.
Well, a very, very strong race for you. Let's talk about, though, that pit stop, because you're sitting down in pit road. You've gained 3 seconds over Peter behind you, and all of a sudden you find yourself 20 seconds down, coming out of the stop and thinking, wait, hang on a minute. That can't be right, surely.
Yeah, during the first stint, I told David that I was like not sure, but I was expecting at least some guys to try not swapping the tires, and I was fearing that it would be Edge. So in the end, it was them, but it would all be nice if both Peter and Jim just kept like Jim's space, so I would just catch them and pass them. But still, yeah, quite speechless about Peter's performance. Really, really good job there.
And, well, heading over to the next round of the championship, Imola comes up. So a taste of Italian soil and a track which arguably is one of the greatest racing tracks in the world in terms of how the track flows and joins together. How does Imola suit the Avicronic Audis here, knowing that it's a track which doesn't necessarily have the biggest benefit of top speed?
Yeah, of course, we hope it will be good. We were really surprised that we were good in Sebring. We did not expect to be on the pace. But yeah, for Imola, I am sadly missing it. So, but there it's not a problem because like the Martin, who is replacing me, has won FSR 5 years ago in Imola, so I have got a good replacement there.
Well, a good replacement indeed. Jenad Simčić then third position for him after a very, very stellar drive back through the field up into that position. Caitlin, final thoughts as we bring proceedings to a close here from this wonderful Sebring circuit.
Seems to me that double the action, double the time. Oh, sorry, I messed it up. Let me try that again. It seems to me that double the time meant double the action. That's what I was going to say. And a wonderful event. It was as ever. I say that every time a World Series by World Pro Racing, my apologies, a World Pro Racing event comes to a close because we always put on such a good show. It's wonderful to see so many top level drivers going at it together. And in the end, a mix of strategies, which I wasn't expecting, even amongst the one-stoppers, really created quite a spectacle. So yeah, fantastic. I'm looking forward to seeing how the championship standings look after this round, because I really don't know, and I'm looking forward to seeing how we're going to race at the next round in Imola.
Well, we'll see how that happens very, very soon. But a massive thanks to those who get it done for us. Firstly, to Enemed, who fuels the World Pro Racing GT3 Masters, as well as our sponsors, Gaming Malta, Visit Malta, and Melita as well. From Caitlin Penny, who has been on my left-hand side, from the cameras done by Justin Misford, from our race steward, Adrian Fagayo, and of course, well, race director, Adrian Fagayo, and our chief steward, George Muscat. I am Jake Sperry, and my word, this championship seemingly twists and turns with every single challenge that we get to see, and it just makes it so brilliant to know that there is no way you can predict how this championship is going to go, especially when a new challenger approached, a new challenger conquered, and now a new challenger wants to take the challenge to everyone else. It's anyone's to play for as we head to Imola, the second half of the season you cannot miss here with World Pro Racing. We'll see you on Italian soil.
truth.
aħna saħħalsulhom il-fuel. Ara ġej.
Wara ftit ġranet kellna rebbieħ ieħor fil-logħba tagħna kontra 30 sekonda bil-maqlub.
Suqu fuq ir-riserva xejdu le mhix se tieqaf.
Il-ġimgħa d-dieħla nkunu fuq pompa tal-Enemed oħra nagħtu xi ħaġa oħra.
For only €5 a month, experience every high-definition moment on your TV, tablet, phone or PC. Great teams, great moments, and so much more. TSN from Melita is your ticket to stay in the game. Visit melita.com/sports.
Hold